Good evening and happy Royal Rumble 2021 weekend. It is here. I hope you guys are ready to rock and roll because tomorrow might be a really, really crazy pay-per-view heading into WrestleMania 37. And we are going to predict everything possible here in this video. I wanted to come up here today and kind of in lieu of a regular Winged Eagle podcast, really just focus on the Royal Rumble, talk about everything that's going to be happening tomorrow, all the possibilities and what we could wind up seeing at WrestleMania this year. And all sorts of different possibilities and reasons and speculations. And that's kind of what this stream is going to be about today. And it should be a fun podcast. So I'm glad you guys are here with me today. Hope you guys are having a great Saturday and a great weekend. And we'll be here all weekend long checking out the Royal Rumble. Don't forget, we're going to be live reacting to the pay-per-view tomorrow. I'll post the link later today. So if you guys got nothing to do during the Rumble, join me and we will all watch it together because it is pretty much, one of the favorite pay-per-views of the year in terms of, just the overall excitement, because you really don't know what you're going to see. And it's hard for these pay-per-views to really be predictable. And I think that's one of the best things about them. So when I was writing down all of my ideas and everything for tomorrow and all my predictions and my possibilities and what could happen compared to what I'd like to see happen, compared to what we're likely to see happen, all these different ideas, I literally feel like I got about 4,000 ideas, and I'm going to share each and every one of them with you today, and we're going to talk about it. I want to hear feedback from you guys and what you guys think might happen tomorrow, who your picks are, who your dark horse picks are, and we're going to discuss every scenario possible, and we're going to just discuss a lot of the dream scenarios that we have for tomorrow and some of the dream scenarios we have for WrestleMania. We're also going to talk about all of the pants-shitting nightmare scenarios that we're also likely to see, and it's very, very likely we could. So there's lots to discuss in terms of what we want versus what we're going to get, and that's probably what we're going to focus the most on in this podcast today. I decided to kind of forego the Wednesday night shows this week because everything is about the Royal Rumble. We're going to talk about a little bit about last night's SmackDown, which I don't know what the hell was going on there. What was going on with that match, the singles match that turned into a 6-man, that turned into a 10-man? Did Raw's creative team throw up on the SmackDown creative team? Like, what the hell was going on there? So SmackDown was a little bit of a mess last night, but there was an absolutely darling, fantastic promo, final confrontation between Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns that I absolutely loved. And that match, at least we know, even if we get a whole bunch of shit tomorrow, even if we get scenarios and outcomes that absolutely mortify us tomorrow, at least we have the Owens and Reigns match. At least we know that's good. And at least we know that regardless of the outcome there, nobody's going to be pissed. Nobody's up the ass of Roman Reigns anymore like they used to be John Cena. So if he wins, nobody's going to freak out. And I think we all absolutely adore and love Kevin Owens and the work he's doing right now. And if they did pull the upset and put the title on him, we'd be fine with that too. So that's our only safe match tomorrow. Every other match has a potential to really fucking suck. But it also has a potential to be really good. So, man, it was a blast kind of making my notes for this. I was cracking up all these different scenarios for the Royal Rumble matches and the title matches and all that stuff I was writing down. I'm like, you know what? It's going to be a fun podcast on Saturday. We're going to discuss all of these possibilities. I'm going to knock out these super chats first, say hi to everybody in the chat. Okay, you can hear me and you can see me. That's good. I was about to say I can be seen, right? There we go. All right, we're good to go there. And I'll go over here to the chat, say hello to the 100 or so of you that are in here right off the bat, which is awesome. By the way, do me a favor and smash that thumbs up button and the like button for me. I'd really, really appreciate it. I wanted to come up today in time to wrap up this podcast before WWE Backstage started on FS1 that I believe goes live in about 2 hours. Renee Paquette is back there. I saw a little picture of her and Paige and Booker T on Twitter. You can see Renee's little bit of a baby bump there, so that's good to see. And apparently they're going to have a match on that show, Natalya and Tamina. Not that I give a shit. Apparently the winner becomes number 30 in the Women's Rumble or something, so that's all there. And apparently they're also going to announce the number 1 and 2 picks for the men's, which I thought that was the way it always was. When they first announced this, I thought they said they were going to announce number 1 and 2 for the men and number 30 for the women. But then everybody was freaking out on social media like they were going to announce the 30th entrant for the men as well. But I don't remember seeing it that way, but apparently that's what it was assumed, and then it's got changed or something. So I guess the 30th man entrant won't be announced, but the 30th women's Rumble entrant will be, from my understanding. You guys correct me if I'm wrong on that. But anyway, not that I really watch Backstage anyway, but there is a little bit of implications in this show because there is a match and they're announcing the first 2 Rumble participants, which I'm not sure why they're doing that, but, it's like the 30th 4th Royal Rumble or something. They're trying different stuff. I definitely think it's a bad idea, though, to announce the 30th entrant unless you really don't have anybody special planned for it, which has been the case in a lot of years. A lot of times the 30th person comes out and it's kind of a letdown. Only a few times has it been like really surprising. So I guess them giving it away at the end of the day isn't the end of the world. It's just they got no business giving away both of these and shit. And, number 1 and number 2 can kind of be fun too. But we'll see. We'll find out what they say later on Backstage. What's going on to Mark and Sam and Bus and Jet and Crash and Nick? Oh, yeah, Nick, you caught I forgot to mute the mic when I was preparing here, and I think one of my coughs got caught on microphone there. That was pretty funny. Good to see you as well. Chris, the new one. Nate Alex Dredge is here. What's up, new Patreon supporter? What's going on? Naveed. And we've got Chris, Colin, Ben, Shellshock. Michael Cuomo is here. Adrian. Melissa is here. Spaz Phoenix in the house. Ernie Garcia, Deshaun Robinson. What's going on to all y'all? JL, Nikita. And we got a $5 super chat rolling in from George Morris. Good to see you again this week, my man. Hey, Greg, how are you doing? Hope everything is good. Rough week for me. At work, patients were pissing themselves and crapping their pants. Be safe. That sounds lovely. Hats off to you if you are in the medical field and you're doing stuff like that. We appreciate your service, man. Alex, what's going on, dude? Want to shout out Alex. He is a new Patreon supporter. On the Patreon page, he's chiming in with a super chat as well. Hi, Greg. I have a horrible feeling that Goldberg will win the title or win the Rumble. A lot of people are talking about Goldberg winning the Rumble. Like a lot of people. And I've got so many, just wait until we get to this. I've got so many ideas for the Rumble. Goldberg is really not on my bingo card. I'd be furious if he found his way into that match after losing to Drew McIntyre, because one thing that we do know is the men's Rumble apparently is going to be the main event. That will go on last. So that does leave the door open for people in previous matches to come in and take the place of somebody or something like that. Goldberg winning the Royal Rumble would absolutely terrify me. Him winning the title would terrify me. And then if we get through that and we survive that and he comes back and wins the Royal Rumble, I'm going to piss my pants, just like all of George Morris's friends. But we'll talk about that here in a minute and all my ideas. Hope you have a great weekend. Thanks for all your videos. Absolutely, Alex. And I hope you guys can be here. You and everybody else can be here tomorrow. We're going to live react to the whole show. Should be a hoot. Who is next? Spaz Phoenix. What's up, dude? Welcome back as well. Chiming in with $5. Final picks. Carmella, Baszler, Jax, Goldberg, parentheses, The Miz, Roman, Edge or Bryan, Bliss or DeVille. I'm like 20% on the same page with you. Just wait. I got a couple of your same picks, but a couple I don't. Adrian, appreciate the 5 as well. Looking forward to my favorite pay-per-view of the year, Greg. We'll be watching it in a bunker as my wife tested positive for COVID. So sorry to hear that, man. Keeping the head down. Well, good luck to both of you getting through that. We had a little COVID scare in my household as well this week, but all is well. I wasn't feeling too good, little throat thing or whatever, but I've kind of bounced back from that. And I feel for you, man. Good luck with all of that. And I should be noted that apparently in WWE, Mia Yim has tested positive for COVID. She announced that a little bit earlier today. And I guess her and Keith Lee are quarantining. I did no word on if Keith Lee is positive, but if they're around each other, they probably have to isolate. So Keith Lee, in all likelihood, is out of the Royal Rumble. And I didn't have him winning it, but I did have him doing some stuff in it. So that sucks, because even if he wasn't really going to win, I think he could have made a statement in there. And there's one big name in the Rumble that I'm really curious how they're going to get out and throw out. And Keith Lee was my guy for that. I had Keith Lee tossing out Braun Strowman. But now that he's out, somebody else is going to have to toss out Big Idiot. I'm kidding. Big Strowman. And that could shake up my plans a little bit. But best of luck to Mia Yim and Keith Lee. Wish them both well, and wish you well as also there, Adrian. And thank you for 5 more, Spaz. Appreciate that. Thoughts on the special match on Backstage between Tamina and Natty? Winner gets the number 30 is really dumb. Yeah, I have no interest in that at all. Now, apparently they're going to announce number 1 and 2 for the men's match, so that's somewhat interesting, but I don't give a shit who is number 30 between these two. I don't care if they're in the Rumble at all. Nothing against Tamina and Natty. They're both lovely human beings. It's just they do nothing for me. I do not care, like, at all. So either one of them can win or lose. I don't care. I'd prefer number 30 to be somebody fun like Ronda or Becky or something. I don't give a shit what they do. So to me, it doesn't matter. It is really dumb. I totally agree. But I guess they're just trying to do something special for this Backstage show since Renee's back or whatever. Don't know. Deshaun, appreciate the $2. Good to see you as well, man. Sup, Greg? Happy birthday, Becky Lynch. That's right. I saw that it was Becky Lynch's birthday today, and she was born in 1987. She was born right smack dab in the middle. Well, not in the middle, right in the beginning of the build to Hogan and Andre. They were doing all the stuff on Piper's Pit during these weeks. As a matter of fact, like in 1 week after she was born, that would be the whole shirt and crucifix ripping off Piper's Pit segment with Andre, Bobby Heenan, and Hulk Hogan. So Becky is 34 years old today. We wish her well. I think it's an extreme long shot for her to be in the Rumble. A lot of people are throwing her name out there. I thought it was a long shot for her to be at WrestleMania in terms of getting back in shape and getting ready to work. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a woman. I don't have a uterus and all that stuff. I think that 7 weeks is a little bit quick to be inside of a ring after giving birth. So I'm going to kind of rule her out, but you never fucking know. John Cena came back after his crazy injury that he had so quick. So maybe Becky can defy the odds as well. But, Becky might be more likely for possibly WrestleMania. You don't know. But we'll talk about that later on as well. She's on my list. Michael Cuomo, appreciate the $5. I noticed that there isn't don't try this at home ads anymore. Yeah, there's not. I don't know what the story is behind that. As Bobby Heenan would say, yeah, don't try it at home. Try it in your backyard. It's more fun. Spaz, appreciate the no comment $20 there. Appreciate the support as always, man. You are the fucking man. And 5 more again from you. How about that main event on SmackDown? Sheamus won the Styles versus Bryan match. We're going to spend a tiny bit of time on last night's SmackDown, but he wasn't even in the original match. And then I don't think he was in the second one, or was he? And I mean, Bryan wrestled, 4 times? He was in 4 different matches. So was AJ. Sheamus was in the final one, I guess. What an absolute cluster disaster. I was actually back at work last night, my first night back this year. So I did not watch SmackDown Live. All I did was catch the YouTube clips and read the results. And I'm like, what the hell am I watching here? But I did want to see in full the Owens and the Roman Reigns promo, which I loved. And some Daniel Bryan. The Daniel Bryan and AJ stuff was good. The Daniel Bryan and AJ match was good. But, then when you went into the DQ to the other DQ that morphed into the other and all these commercial breaks, my God. And it was brand to brand invitational, and all the Raw guys were on the show as well last night, which it's Rumble time. They could have just brought everybody on the show and just said, fuck it, it's Rumble weekend. It would have been okay. To give this dumb rule a reason to exist really annoys me. I wish they would just change the name of the brand to brand invitational to we don't feel like having a brand split today, because that's all it is. Oh, let's just bring these guys out here, which is the right thing to do. Good way to hype up the Rumble, get as many guys from both brands in there as possible on your go-home show. Totally fine with it, but to put it together like this, I don't know why they are so in love with this, this concept, this trope of you start a match, DQ, commercial, come back, impromptu tag or something. And they do this shit all the time. Sometimes they do it 2 or 3 times within one episode of Monday Night Raw. And now this shit is carrying over to SmackDown. Keep it away from me. But there are a couple things about SmackDown we will address. 2 more from Adrian coming in as well. Thank you, dude. Appreciate it. My white horse for the men's Rumble is Sheamus. And nice pun there on the white horse. Yeah, Sheamus is on my list because he's been impressive. His matches are good. In terms of deserving it, I got to say Sheamus does. But, deserving it and what makes the most sense for WrestleMania are kind of 2 different things. So he's on my list as a dark horse, along with somebody like Nakamura or Cesaro. But I racked my brain. I'm still not 100% sold on my pick for later, but I spent a lot of time thinking about it and going back and forth between guys. And the more and more I think about it, I see really good scenarios for WrestleMania with the pick that I chose, where some of the other ones, it might be tough to create stories. I'm not sure. But anyway, we'll talk about it as we get closer to that match. AJ, good to see you in here again this week, man. Appreciate it. What's up, Baldy? Royal Rumble is going to feel weird in the Thunderdome. It is. And it's going to be weird to have piped in countdown chants, the 3, 2, 1. That's going to feel very weird. And it's going to have a different feel. That's why, I'm going to rule out somebody like CM Punk coming back. I know we always bring up his name, but you got to at least talk about him. But for him to come back, if CM Punk were to come back after all this time, CM Punk coming back is an internet breaking moment, and I just can't see that happening without fans. That's just one situation where, everything else, WWE's probably just got to say, look, we're not going to have fans for that. They did the Undertaker retirement. We had no choice. It's his 30th anniversary. There's no fans. We got to do it. But if there's a way to wait, then, maybe CM Punk coming out the way the Hardy Boys did at WrestleMania when there's fans there would be a little bit better. But either way, it's going to feel weird in the Thunderdome. I'm glad you're here as always, Antoine. And Spaz has retracted his $10 message, but appreciate that again, Spaz. So yeah, Adrian's right. Spaz is a pimp. I've seen him. You should see his hat collection. He's got like 4 canes, like gold-plated canes that he walks around with. He's awesome. He's got this long like line of beautiful women. I think they call it a train of some kind. He's always walks around with that. He's the man. Kev Boz, what's up, Greg? Do you think you can make a surprise entrant in the Rumble? Those guys don't want anything to do with me. If I was in that Rumble, you can kiss Braun Strowman's ass goodbye. He's out of there. Daniel Bryan wouldn't stand a chance against me. I'd whoop the shit out of Edge. Yeah, that's the problem. WWE would never ask me to do that because I'd win, and they don't want that for WrestleMania because they know I'd expose their talent and beat them up. So unfortunately, no, Kevin. I could do too much damage in there, so they will never ask me. But anyway, that at least catches up the Super Chats here. We're going to start getting into some Royal Rumble ideas and some Royal Rumble predictions. But first, let's talk just a little bit about last night's SmackDown. Like I said, we're just going to spend a couple of minutes on this because I thought there was just a fantastic promo to really seal things and really close off this build between Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns, and a really good, I guess it was a studio or via satellite thing, so they're in separate locations. Paul Heyman was with Roman Reigns, and Roman is just being savage as hell, bringing up Kevin Owens' family and his grandfather and his father and Owens. He warns Roman even, I'm warning you, be careful what you say because this Sunday I'm going to fucking kill you. And he remains calm a little bit until Roman keeps pushing his buttons. And then finally he just unloads and got really emotional and went off super hardcore in the end there. And they both, I think, did an equally good job in their promos, getting their points across. Roman just being typical Roman, talking to Paul Heyman, very calm, very subdued, really trying to do what he can to rile up Kevin Owens. And it did work in the end, but you also really, you're kind of invested in this. Like, this is really, Kevin Owens is super impressive. We always knew he had this in him. He performs in every single program like this he's in, everybody he works with. So in terms of Kevin Owens winning the title or something, I'm all on board with that. It's just what makes more sense for WrestleMania is what might be a little tough to swallow in terms of that being an actual likely outcome. But either way, they've set themselves up tomorrow for a really good finish here of some kind because of course, this is going to be a last man standing match. You got a lot of anger now. You got a lot of bad blood. You've got a very, very, very pissed off Kevin Owens, and this is probably going to be his last chance. And with the last man standing stipulation, that really opens up the door for something crazy to happen. I thought for sure that, they would do something. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. We said that Jey Uso has been such a factor in all of Roman Reigns' matches that they're going to have to do some sort of Jey banning stipulation. And I threw out the idea of what they should do is say that if Jey Uso interferes, make the stipulation in the contract. If Uso interferes again on your behalf, then you lose the title. Automatically lose the title if Jey Uso shows his fucking face out there. And then what you do is you have what you think is Jey Uso coming out there, maybe in a hat or something, and attacking Kevin Owens. Referee disqualifies Roman, awards Kevin Owens the belt. He has the celebration. The announcer announces him as new champion. His music plays. He gets all the way up to the stage for Jey to take off his hat and reveal it's Jimmy. Jimmy's not part of the stipulation. The match is restarted. Roman spears Kevin Owens and keeps the title. And that would just be a fucking shit ton of heat. But with all of the interference that Jey has done, they have not kept him out of this match in any way. If anything, they've opened the door for him to freely interfere in this thing. So it was a few years back. What year was it that because this match has happened at the Royal Rumble before, right? Let's see if I can remember. 2017. Yeah, it was Owens and Roman, wasn't that? Oh, that's the Jericho shark cage match, right? So it was almost kind of like the same thing happening there, only it was Owens that had the backup. This time, it's Roman. So why the hell is Jey Uso not up in a shark cage? I thought for sure they would try to do something to where keep him out of the ring to where Jimmy could interfere. I still think there's a really good chance we're going to see Jimmy Uso at some point because we haven't really seen him since Hell in the Cell, and he's probably healthy by now, you would think. I don't know for sure, but for them to not be involved here would almost be unbelievable because they got to get involved. It's a last man standing match. This is a great way to beat Kevin Owens, but again, kind of give him that WrestleMania 13 Stone Cold performance where he just fights his ass off and he has Roman beat, just like he did at TLC. He had Roman beat a couple of times, but Jey Uso continued to screw him over. And, you know, tomorrow will probably be no different. I want Owens to... I think Roman needs to carry the title into WrestleMania. Honestly, and as we'll talk about later on, I think Roman Reigns needs to retain against whoever he faces at WrestleMania. I do. I think SummerSlam should be Roman's title-dropping pay-per-view. That's how long I think he should hold it. So we're going to talk about all the different scenarios for Roman going into WrestleMania, but I think he should even retain when he gets there as well, depending on who he faces and how they set that up. So he's going to have to survive Kevin Owens somehow tomorrow, but I want this to lead to a future title run for Kevin Owens sometime in the future. So a really awesome performance here again would only, to me, solidify that as more of a possibility that WWE cannot waste this guy. He is too good. He's too main event. He comes through in every situation he's in like this. So it's got to be a deal where Owens' stock rises in the loss. And that kind of happened already at the last time these two guys faced, and I hope it happens here again. But here's one scenario that nobody's really talking about for tomorrow in terms of how to have Roman Reigns beat Kevin Owens. I suppose, and I'd be fine with this too, that Roman could beat Kevin Owens absolutely clean with no help. He wins the last man standing match, maybe just barely, maybe the deal where they're both rising to their feet and Reigns gets up and Owens collapses and he barely wins the 10 count and wins the match. But if you're going to have some sort of help for Roman and you're assuming it's going to be Jey Uso or possibly a Jimmy Uso, what about Adam Pearce turning heel? Nobody's talking about that one. He's involved here. So he could come out there. It was cool. You know, he kind of fought back on Roman last week, and I think he even caught him with a fist or whatever until Owens came out there and made the save or whatever. So you feel like maybe they could be setting something like up for that, because I feel like Kevin Owens has got to get maybe screwed in some way. And you would think that Owens and Pearce, you know, with all their history and they're tight and Pearce gave him the match, maybe it's a situation where it's not a ruse. Like they planned this and Pearce has been in cahoots with Roman the whole time. Maybe it's a situation like Jey, where Adam he decides to succumb. He submits to Roman and almost kind of like reluctantly becomes a Roman guy, acknowledges him as the tribal chief, and seems a little bit conflicted about it, but he's still on Team Roman. And maybe the way they make that happen is because Roman says, look, if you back me and you join my team or whatever, I will guarantee your employment. I will go to management. I will go to Vince McMahon and say, if you ever fire this guy, I'm walking. You're going to lose your top dog. You're going to lose your big dog. I will leave this company if you fire Adam Pearce. And that kind of handcuffs WWE, ties their hands. They have to keep him employed in this position of authority. And now Roman and Heyman, as corrupt as they are, have an authority figure in their pocket. And they can control and manipulate Adam Pearce to give him the matches and the scenarios that benefit him the most. And it would make him a really tough champion to beat if he's got that kind of backup with him. And it would make it a lot easier if he had Adam Pearce on his side to make it to a pay-per-view like SummerSlam, where he finally drops it a year after winning it. Something like that might be fun. But either way, win, lose, or draw for either guy, this match is going to be the best match on the card. I fully expect that. Kevin Owens is going to surprise and entertain, not surprise, but he's going to outperform pretty much everybody. Roman's going to do a great job as well, but I think Owens is going to really resemble, you know, that underdog Steve Austin. I want to see some blood. I want to see a little bit of blood, if that's okay. You know, I want to see Owens with a face full of juice, you know, where he's just fighting his ass off and in the end, you know, just falls a little bit short and, you know, earns even more respect from the audience that will hopefully lead to title matches for him in 2021. But either way, I think Roman's got to come out of this match with the title. I think Roman Reigns has got to go into WrestleMania with the title. And I guess I'm giving away who I'm predicting in that later on. But we'll get to that. We'll get to more on that in a second. We also had Bianca Belair pinning Bayley last night in a completely clean match. So Bianca got one over on her. They are both on my short list to win the Women's Royal Rumble as well. And I don't know what that means for their one-on-one program, how far it's going to go beyond this, but that was good for Bianca. Big win for her, and I think there's a little bit of all of us are pulling for her. Did you guys see the Bianca Belair Chronicle on the WWE Network? Great. Absolutely great. How can you not want her to win? So stay tuned to find out if I pick her or not. And other than that, the only other thing I want to mention is the nonsense that went on, I guess, in the entire second half of the show. Started out great with a Daniel Bryan promo, really hammering home that he wants to win the Royal Rumble. WWE is, making it seem like it's a short list of guys, like 5 or 6 guys that are really pushing hard as potential winners here. Daniel Bryan is a big one because, we all remember the debacle that was 2015 and how fucking stupid WWE was booking the worst Royal Rumble match in history and really, really pissing the fans off with that. And Daniel Bryan, I feel like they owe us a Daniel Bryan Royal Rumble victory. So I like the fact that WWE is making it seem like he is a real, credible threat to win the Rumble. I kind of hope he does, but like I said, stay tuned for my prediction. So that leads AJ Styles to come out, and that's when they mention it's the brand-to-brand invitational. AJ pushes Daniel Bryan down and kind of almost stands over him. Daniel Bryan proposes a match. They do the one-on-one. It's a great match. We get a DQ. There's people out there on commentary. This thing is a clusterfuck. It then morphs into a 6-man match, which also ends in a DQ. And then in the end, we get a 10-man tag with Daniel Bryan, Sheamus, Nakamura, Big E, and Otis defeating The Miz, Morrison, AJ Styles, Cesaro, and Sami Zayn. So technically, Daniel Bryan and AJ, wrestled in 3 matches here? Ridiculous. And we had the big return at the end of the match as well. After the match, the fighting continues. They're all brawling on the outside, and that's when Braun Strowman's music hits, and he comes down to the ring and beats the hell out of everybody as the show goes off the air. He looked ridiculously jacked, extremely scary, very intense. He looked great. And I thought for sure he'd be an entrant in the Rumble, like a surprise entrant, but I wasn't expecting to see him last night. So he showed up on SmackDown last night. He's back. He will be in the Rumble, and he's going to be another major player now that you can add to the list of, the potential Rumble winners. So we got a lot to think about. So that was pretty much your SmackDown in a nutshell. Nothing crazy. Not sure what was going on with that singles match, 6-man and 10-man, but the Roman and Owens stuff was fabulous. Now we can start getting into the actual Rumble predictions here in just 1 second. Did I get everybody else on the supers? No, there's one from Chris. There's one Pixel. There's one. Okay, 2 more to knock out, and then we are officially into the Royal Rumble predictions, and we're going to start with the women's tag team title match. Daniel, appreciate the $5. Good to see you, man. Getting COVID is not going to stop me from enjoying the Royal Rumble. I'm pulling for Daniel Bryan. Yes, yes, yes. DM23. Well, Daniel, good luck with that. Sorry you are battling COVID as well. And good luck to you. I'm glad at least you're home and you're isolating and you can watch the Royal Rumble. I guess there's worse things to do on days that you're sick. I think tomorrow's going to be a good pay-per-view, and hopefully you can join us tomorrow for the live watch-along, because that's going to be fun. Who do we got next? Pixel Dreams. Appreciate the $2. Who is winning the Rumble? Stay tuned. You're about to find out. You are about to find out. And Chris Ludecki, what's going on, man? Appreciate the 5 as well. Great point about Pierce. I could see that. Or Solomonster said KO could beat Roman, then Roman wins a Rumble and challenges Goldberg at Mania. Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about, like I said earlier, somebody coming out from a previous match and winning the Royal Rumble, like one of the title matches. I've heard Goldberg's name thrown around to win the Rumble and Roman to win the Rumble. So I don't know. I don't want to see either one of those scenarios. I just think Roman should just continue to carry the Universal title, because then you're moving Roman back to Raw. So many wild cards in this too. You got to think about the future of Brock Lesnar, even if we don't see him tomorrow, even if for some reason he sits this WrestleMania out, which with the move to Peacock, I'd be really surprised if WWE doesn't say, Brock, we'll pay you $9 trillion if you come work a WrestleMania match. I'm certain he's going to be there. So all that stuff to me has to factor into my scenarios there. And Roman dropping the belt to KO, like I wouldn't mind that at all, but then winning the Rumble, challenging Goldberg, who assumingly beats Drew. I don't know, man. That's just, that's not what I want. Well, where would that leave Drew then? And then you're taking then you're taking the belt off of Roman for 2 months for no reason, just to give him another title instead. Why even, I guess maybe they're trying to get that match in that they missed last year, Goldberg versus Roman Reigns, which I still think that's a match in the future that needs to happen. They've already teased it. And it was supposed to happen last year, but there's no rule that says it has to happen at WrestleMania. And we also have to take into consideration that there is absolutely no way that WWE has this shit planned out. I think that the way they produce their TV now, the Royal Rumble is tomorrow. I'd be willing to bet they still don't 100% know. How fucked up is that? There used to be a time when WWE could plan 6 months to a year in advance. They're not planning 6 days in advance anymore. And that's the scariest part about tomorrow, is that we could get a great Royal Rumble, but if we do, it's WWE just fell ass backwards into it. It just happened to work out. Like, they don't have any forward thinking or planning at all. And what scenarios sound great, I just don't understand like why they can't think ahead to SummerSlam and be like, oh, that would be a great match to have. Because that's like how that's how booking used to go. You book the ending and then you work backwards from there. You know, and so they don't have any of that anymore. They don't think about where they want to be or where they want to go. Some years they have WrestleManias planned out kind of in their head. They're big matches they want set up. But with COVID and everything this year, it made it even harder to do that. They weren't even sure of the future of WrestleMania, which fucking city it's going to be in. Are there going to be fans or they're not going to be fans? Thunderdome, Raymond James, what the hell's going on? And Peacock Network and all this stuff that's happening. It's like they forgot that they actually have to build matches for this and have matches that people are going to want to see. And that's when you hear about Goldberg coming back. And you're like, oh shit, here they go. Relying on these stars, that's the company relies on them so heavily that they've failed to make any of their own. And this has become more apparent every year because when you look at the Royal Rumble field here for the Men's Rumble, there's so many guys that I would love to see win this. Nakamura, Cesaro, Daniel Bryan, and some others. But is that who WWE wants for their big attraction matches at WrestleMania? First WrestleMania on Peacock, a lot of new eyeballs. That makes me very nervous for the Goldberg situation. That's why I also think we're probably going to see Brock as well. But that's an interesting scenario there, having Roman drop the belt and then go into Royal Rumble and win it. But I'm going to vote no on that one. That wouldn't please me at all. I got a better idea than that. Stay tuned. And Domination Warrior, appreciate the 5. Sup, Greg? Ever notice whenever there's a title match in February, Goldberg always wins it, then drop it at Mania? Also, what Rumble had the best venue? Oh, what Rumble had the best venue? I got to think about that one. The one with Edge last year was fucking great. Yeah, he won the title twice in February, beat Kevin Owens, and then beat The Fiend. Ugh. God, that can't happen again, man. If he beats Drew McIntyre, I swear to God, I'm not gonna mention the tweet I sent out yesterday because if it happens, I might be in a little trouble. Yeah, Nakamura already won. They did nothing with it, of course, but maybe they can change that. He had a great outing a couple weeks ago on SmackDown, but anyway, we'll see. Nakamura is on my list of maybes, but he's not real high up on my list. I've got some other maybes. But anyway, let's talk about tomorrow's WWE Royal Rumble live from the Thunderdome. Like I said, we will be up here doing a live watch along for the whole pay-per-view. Should be a lot of fun. We have Bad Bunny going to be performing his hit song Booker T on this show. I don't know who Bad Bunny is, but I do know who Booker T is. And apparently he's even in this music video. And for some reason, in the music video, he's dressed like G.I. Bro. Don't know why. But apparently that's going to be the musical guest performance at the Royal Rumble. I don't care. Never heard of this person. Don't care, don't care, don't care. But the fact that his song is called Booker T, Booker T's on WWE backstage here in just a little bit, in about an hour and a half, I think we're going to see Booker in the Rumble. I think Booker's going to be a surprise entrant. And I also have a whole bunch of other possible surprise entrants that I think would be cool to see. We'll talk about that in a minute. But in terms of the card, let's start with the women's tag team title match. Charlotte and Asuka defending against Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. There's implications here out the ass. Now, I've got all sorts of ideas for Charlotte at WrestleMania, what she's going to be doing, because right now, of course, she's locked in her little feud with Lacey Evans, but let's be realistic. By the time we get to WrestleMania, Charlotte is going to be in a big, high-profile match on the card for a championship. There's no way around that. So in order to get to that point, they need to end this team with Charlotte and Asuka. There's really no point in them being together. I didn't really like that they were put together, and they don't need to be champions. Now, I do not want to see Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler champions again either. I kind of liked the team at first when they were kind of at each other's throats a little bit, but now I just don't care. And plus, who likes Nia? Does anybody like Nia Jax? I defend her sometimes. I think the fans are a bit hard on her, but in terms of me being entertained by her matches and her presence on TV, no, not even close. So I want nothing to do with her. But at the same time, I kind of want those belts off Charlotte and Asuka just so that obstacle is out of my fucking life. So I'm going to predict Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler here to win the tag team titles, which could be the beginning or spark the implosion of Asuka and Charlotte. Maybe there's a miscommunication there, and that sets up some bad blood between them, because we talked about this when Charlotte came back. As soon as Charlotte came back and joined Asuka and won the title, I was like, oh fuck, what's going to wind up happening is Charlotte, they're either going to set up a WrestleMania match between Charlotte and Asuka, or sometime between WrestleMania, Charlotte takes the belt from her and goes into WrestleMania. And if you guys remember what we talked about in December, that scenario opened up the door for a very, very specific Women's Royal Rumble winner with that scenario. So that's kind of what I'm hoping they're going to do here, because I really want to see this scenario. So I think Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler should take the titles from Charlotte and Asuka tomorrow. You get some sort of tension between the two, or a full-on implosion. Just implode the team right there tomorrow. Miscommunication or something like that. They drop the belt. Maybe Asuka's still a little funny in the head from her encounters with Alexa Bliss, and she's a little off, and she's just not in the mood for any bullshit, and she goes ape shit on Charlotte and attacks her and puts her in the Asuka lock after the match because she's pissed that they drop the belts or something, and then it leads to a match with them down the road. But at the same time, Charlotte is involved with this nonsense with Lacey Evans. So if they do that tomorrow and they do the implosion, essentially that gives Charlotte two feuds, which she kind of has to wrap up both. And I certainly don't think we're going to see Charlotte and Lacey Evans at WrestleMania. Hell no. Charlotte's going to be in a title match, but we could see that match on Raw or potentially Elimination Chamber. Elimination Chamber is next month, I believe, on the 21st, and then Fastlane is in March. And Fastlane will be the first show on the Peacock Network, the first pay-per-view on the Peacock Network. So in terms of that Charlotte and Asuka implosion, that could be a perfect either main event or high-profile match to put on your first pay-per-view on the Peacock Network, Charlotte versus Asuka. You could even have that one. You could even have that main event and have Charlotte, unfortunately, defeat her and win the title at Fastlane, which, again, is the first pay-per-view on Peacock. You know WWE is going to want to come out strong and really show the Peacock audience what they can do, and having the first pay-per-view have a pretty high-profile match on there and a title change might be a good way to do that, and then you can follow it up with a really, really strong big 2 nights of WrestleMania. So that kind of scenario is in my head for Charlotte, Asuka, and the Tag Team Championships, and if that scenario plays out, that really leaves one winner that I want to see for the Women's Rumble, and I think you guys probably know who that is. So my prediction on the Women's Tag Team titles: Nia Jax and Shayna regain the belts. And then hopefully drop them to I don't care who the hell wins these things. Give it to Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. Poor Dana Brooke's been working her ass off for so long. Give her these. They gave Peyton Royce and Billie Kay the tag team belts. Tell me Dana Brooke doesn't deserve them? Put it back on Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, and then in a couple of weeks have Mandy and Dana upset them for the titles. That's what I do. WWE SmackDown Women's title is also on the line as well. Sasha Banks defending against Carmella. This feud has gone way longer than I would have liked it to go. Carmella winning the title here, I just can't see it happening. I think Sasha, again, is one of those champions that should carry the belt into WrestleMania and set up a really big match against either the Rumble winner or the Chamber winner. I think you're going to have a women's Chamber match to determine the next challenger, I'm sure, and that could open up the door for anybody, including Bayley. I mean, what if I know we got Bayley and Sasha already. They kind of already done that feud, and they're at least a little bit away from each other and separated right now. But that's the type of deal. It's going to be a lifelong attachment to them. Like, they can feud. It's like Shawn and Triple H or something. So their feud is never really going to end. They're just going to be maybe preoccupied with other stuff in between being at each other's throats. Plus, they've never had a match together at WrestleMania. So Sasha and Bayley at Mania would be really fun. Sasha and Bianca Belair at WrestleMania would be really fun. I'd be fine with either one of those scenarios. What I'm not fine with is Carmella going into WrestleMania to defend the title. Nothing against Carmella, but Sasha is a star. And I think for WrestleMania, your stars should be shining the brightest. And I got nothing really against Carmella other than she's out there with a goddamn sommelier pretending like she's drinking good champagne when she's drinking goddamn Cooks that you can buy for $6 at 7-Eleven. And by the way, Reginald is fantastic. I will say that. I like him with her. He's great. So because that act is kind of slightly over and entertaining, I'm not saying it's out of the question to put the belt on Carmella tomorrow. They could, but no, I'm picking Sasha to retain there. It just seems right. I can't, for her to drop the belt to Carmella, unless Sasha regains it back prior to WrestleMania or something, otherwise I can't see Carmella going into WrestleMania to have like a one-on-one match with somebody. it would feel like the title belt would have to be a 4-way or something if Carmella was champion. I'm just not interested in any scenario with her being champion, at least right now. I'm open to Carmella being champion again. I don't hate her or anything. I just don't want her to be winning the title now. So let's have Sasha retain tomorrow and just get through that match with the belt remaining on the boss. Oh, yeah. Lots of Miz talk, Goldberg talk, cash-in talk. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. But first, we're going to talk about the last man standing match, Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens. Like I mentioned earlier on when we were talking about SmackDown, all the different possibilities of ways they could end this match. Like I said earlier, I'm really surprised they did not do a Jey Uso banning stipulation, whether you put him up in a shark cage like you did Jericho a couple of years ago, or you make the stip that if he interferes, Roman loses the title. And I thought that a stipulation like that would be better because it opens up the door to bring Jimmy Uso back. You bring Jimmy Uso out there in a hat. He attacks Kevin Owens. Referee calls for the bell, awards Kevin Owens the title. He's announced as the new champion. Music is playing. Fake crowd is going nuts. We're all shitting our pants here at home. Jimmy reveals the hat to reveal it's Jimmy and not Jay. Referee's like, oh shit, the rules didn't say anything about Jimmy, so I guess we have to restart the match. Romans hits Owens with a spear, retains the title, heat out the ass. That would be awesome, but none of those scenarios are in play here. It's just a last man standing match, which really opens up the door for Roman, or either one of these guys really, but especially Roman, to have some help here, either from his family or from maybe a heel turning Adam Pearce. Why not? And I set up that scenario earlier. I'm like, if Adam Pearce turns heel, it could be a situation where he's not just automatically on the side of Roman like it was a ruse the whole time and they were both just playing Kevin Owens. He really hated Roman Reigns when Roman was fucking with him and making him his opponent at Royal Rumble and beating the hell out of him on SmackDown. But maybe it's a Jey Uso thing where he just realizes it's better to join him than try to beat him. And he can kind of reluctantly be on the side of Roman. And in return, Roman will guarantee his employment because Adam Pearce, he hasn't been the most competent authority figure in WWE history. He let a lot of shit slide with Retribution, them getting involved, and he's been okay at doing his job sometimes and not really good at doing his job other times. So maybe Roman's like, look, if you join me, I will go to management. I will go to Vince McMahon and say, if they fire you, I walk. You will lose your biggest star in the company. And that now allows Roman to wield a lot more power, knowing that he's got an authority figure in his back pocket and could help him retain that title for a long time. Because like I said earlier, I think Roman Reigns should not only retain here, I don't think there's any guarantee in the world that he needs to drop the belt at WrestleMania. I'd like him to retain at WrestleMania. And I got a couple of great opponent ideas for him for WrestleMania because not all fairy tales have happy endings. Sometimes reality sucks. Sometimes reality bites you in the ass. And Roman Reigns could be that reality, for one hopeful babyface, to accomplish their dream at WrestleMania, maybe even a comeback story, and have it all squashed by the tribal chief, because that's the way life goes. And life isn't always fair. That's not always a storybook ending. And if he continued to do that and held the title into SummerSlam, how many times have I mentioned this scenario on the podcast in the last couple of months? He goes into SummerSlam to face a still United States champion, Bobby Lashley, and drop the belt to Lashley. Lashley locks his fucking head off in the main event of that and puts down Roman. That's a pipe dream. I know WWE's not going to do that. I don't think they feel and think as highly of Bobby Lashley as I do, but something like that would be phenomenal. And what a way to get Lashley over. Holy shit, and what a great run for Roman Reigns and all of that. So I kind of am hoping that Roman holds the belt for a lot longer than WrestleMania. But before we get to WrestleMania, we got to get through this match. And like I said, I think Roman Reigns is going to retain. I think it's even possible that he does it without help, because I do think Roman Reigns does need to win a match on his own. He's had a lot of help, and he's such, he's projected as this badass Brock Lesnar unbeatable type of gimmick and character with Paul Heyman by his side. At some point, he should win a match on his own. Brock did. So I don't think it's a guarantee that Roman does need help, but holy shit, the door is really open for it. So you can bring Jimmy Uso back. You can have Jey Uso out there, obviously. Maybe some sort of swerve heel turn with Adam Pearce. Or not. Or you just have the match and, it's a good hard-fought match. Both guys kill each other. And in the end, Roman Reigns just barely beats the 10 count up, where Kevin Owens does not. And he wins clean with no help. Would be a good source of material for his promos following SmackDowns if it happened that way. I didn't need anybody to beat you. I don't need any help. He could even berate Jey Uso or something. I didn't need you. I never needed you to beat Owens. I did it by myself. I proved that last night, or I proved that last Sunday. So I could see it going that way too. Well, regardless of what they do, whether we see Jay, whether we see Jimmy, whether we see fucking Yokozuna, or if we see Adam Pearce turn heel, Roman Reigns, I think, is walking out of the Royal Rumble as Universal Champion. So I'm predicting Roman Reigns to defeat Kevin Owens in the last man standing match. How? Not sure. All I know is it's probably going to happen. Okay, let me collect myself, take a little sip of my delicious Stella before we talk about this match. Drew McIntyre defending the WWE title against Bill Goldberg. Jesus Christ, man. We've been talking about this since it was made. We've been very nervous about it. Goldberg coming in. Now, a year ago, you guys remember when Goldberg was announced for Saudi Arabia to take on then WWE, then Universal Champion, The Fiend. I laughed at it. I'm like, please. And you guys were telling me, good Mike, where Goldberg's going to beat The Fiend. I'm like, you guys are all stupid. No, that's not going to happen. No, Goldberg, for good mic work, for real. Goldberg's going to win. I'm like, no, you're stupid. It's not going to happen. I insisted that there is no way Goldberg is going to go into Saudi Arabia and beat this brand new character that WWE has put a shit ton of time and money and energy and commitment into repackaging Bray Wyatt, making him a very interesting, unique character, one that we've never seen in the company before, to just completely murder that to a guy that wrestles once or twice a year and is 76 years old, would make no sense at all, and they fucking did it. So who am I to say that there's no way Goldberg's going to go into Royal Rumble tomorrow and beat Drew McIntyre? So before we even talk about the possibilities here, I'm going to say this right up front. My prediction, Drew McIntyre, just on fucking principle. I'm not predicting really what I think is going to happen. I'm predicting what I want to happen. I cannot in good conscience, even if it made me a Nostradamus of predictions, and my predictions would be perfect if I just had the guts to predict Goldberg. I can't say the words. I can't say Goldberg's going to beat Drew McIntyre for the title. No, man. WWE, please, Jesus, don't do this. Drew McIntyre is a star. Drew McIntyre is the champion. We all like Drew McIntyre. And in the past couple of weeks on the podcast, we've talked about potential scenarios for this match and how it might go down, and including scenarios if Goldberg won. Now, if Goldberg does beat him, that sets up a couple of possibilities. Maybe they want Drew McIntyre to have the moment that he didn't get last year. Maybe they take the belt off of him again so he can win it in Raymond James Stadium with fans and get the moment he lost out on last year. But that would be a really silly reason to put the belt on Goldberg, just to have him come in and lose another match at WrestleMania again. That means he's going to have dropped a world title at WrestleMania like 3 out of the last 5 years or something, to Brock and to Strowman and now to McIntyre. And that also means we get a rematch of the Royal Rumble at WrestleMania. I don't think that's the type of attraction you would want a match you just saw. I know they did it with Brock and Goldberg a couple years ago, but with Goldberg and Drew, that doesn't seem right. So if Goldberg won the title, I feel like Drew would be the odd man out, and maybe you could have Drew re-entering the Rumble again and winning it. But again, why would you even do that? And Goldberg winning, who does that set up him facing at WrestleMania? Like, unless, he faces the winner of the Royal Rumble, which could be Edge, Battle of the Spears or something. And a lot of people have mentioned Goldberg losing here and then entering the Rumble, winning it so he can go challenge Roman. And then he's got both matches happening. So one of the scenarios we talked about a few weeks back is that if Goldberg were to win, or if Goldberg were to lose here and then go into WrestleMania to face Roman, I didn't think that was a really good possibility, because he'd just be losing twice. Now Goldberg's going to do whatever he's asked to do, but WWE has got such a raging hard, mega huge fucking boner for every star of the past. I can't see them putting down Goldberg 2 pay-per-views in a row like that. Now, if he's got a Royal Rumble victory in between it, I guess maybe that lessens the blow, gives Goldberg another notch on his belt. Now he's a former Rumble winner, which if you would have told me in 20 years ago that Goldberg would win the Royal Rumble in 2021, I would have been like, what? What is he, 90? So I wouldn't even been able to comprehend that type of information. So I don't want to see that scenario. But WWE bringing in Goldberg here, why are they giving him this match? Why are they putting him here? It feels like they would bring him in for WrestleMania for something else. So to put him in a title match makes me so nervous they're actually going to do it. And then, of course, there's that one big wild card, The Miz. The Miz has got the Money in the Bank briefcase. And the only good thing about that idiot having that green box is that if they do decide to put the title on Goldberg, you can have The Miz take the pin. If he comes out, cashes in the briefcase, and makes it a triple threat, which again, I don't know why The Miz would do that. The Miz's best bet is to wait for the match to be over and attack the winner. So it's going to have, Miz is going to have to grow a set of balls to actually get in this match at a triple threat, because they did it last time, but it was Morrison that did it. So the Miz is going to have to go in there with those two monsters and say, you know what, I want to get in between them. So that seems like a pretty silly thing for the Miz to do, unless he catches them where they're both just laid out for some reason. Maybe they go through a table and they're just both annihilated, and then the Miz's music hits and he comes out there and he cashes in. But again, this match can't go very long. This match goes longer than 5 minutes, it's going to suck. So, like I said, I'm predicting Drew out of principle. I think Goldberg can kick out of a Claymore, and I think Drew can kick out of a spear. But in the end, Drew needs a Claymore and pin fucking Goldberg. McIntyre is a guy that they're trying to make a big deal, and having him lose here is going to kill everything. They murdered The Fiend last year, and if they do this shit again with Drew McIntyre, I'm just so nervous. But like I said, it's the one match that I'm just going to be a stubborn asshole about. I'm out of fucking principle. I'm picking Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre is the person that should win this match. Absolutely. He should win this match. Goldberg in his 50s, WWE, I'm not going to be an idiot, but Goldberg should put him over. It has nothing to do with Goldberg. It has everything to do with WWE creative and what they want to do. What WWE needs to do is have Goldberg put Roman Reigns or put Drew McIntyre over. But if they do that, again, where does that leave Goldberg in terms of other big attraction matches? If he just comes back and loses every time, kind of like Brock, how he lost to Drew McIntyre last year, I think when he does come back, his very first match back, I don't think is going to be a loss. I think his first match back is going to be a win. I think he's going to win a few matches before finally losing a match again. So Brock, we could even see him come back and win the title at some point. So there's so many other players to think about here in terms of the Royal Rumble. When you think about a match like this, okay, is McIntyre going to win? Is Goldberg going to win? And then you have to think about Rumble scenarios. What makes the most sense going into the Royal Rumble? Because again, only one champion gets to get challenged by the Rumble winner. So one title will face the Rumble winner. The other, they got to figure out the opponent some other way. I'm guessing Elimination Chamber. Is that how they do it? They determine the men's and the women's challengers at the Chamber next month. Once the Rumble winners challenge who they're going to challenge, I guess is how it goes. So who faces the WWE champion at WrestleMania? Who faces Goldberg or Drew? Is it the Rumble winner or is it somebody else? And how do we get there? And how do you do it? But in the end tomorrow, even though I'm extremely nervous about this prediction, I'm predicting Drew McIntyre to beat Bill Goldberg. Even with The Miz walking around there with that briefcase, there's a really good chance The Miz could walk out of the Royal Rumble tomorrow as champion, but I think that would be absolutely awful. The Miz and Morrison doesn't do anything for anyone. Every time they're on TV, we're all complaining, we're all bitching. Twitter is like, oh, get these guys off of my TV. Putting the belt right now on The Miz this close to WrestleMania, he doesn't have any business being in the same arena as that championship leather golden belt. He shouldn't even breathe the same air as that belt. And he's got the briefcase right now, and he could potentially cash in. And like I said, the only good thing about him having that briefcase is for them to get out of this match without beating either guy. You can get the belt off of Drew by having Goldberg pin The Miz, or you can have McIntyre beat Goldberg the same way without really having to be pinned. Or maybe Miz can just interfere, causing a distraction. Like one way or the other, WWE's going to keep Goldberg strong here. The right thing to do is have Drew McIntyre Claymore and pin him clean in 3 minutes, 30 seconds in the middle of that ring. That's the right thing to do. Is it what WWE's going to do? Of course not. Of course not. They're going to protect him like they always do. So whatever happens here, as long as Drew McIntyre walks out of that building as champion and he goes into WrestleMania as champion, I think is what I want to see here. Unless they really want to give Drew that win at WrestleMania again, I don't know, but I don't want to see Drew McIntyre and Goldberg twice. I don't want to see that twice. So I don't like that scenario. So like I said, out of principle, Drew McIntyre retaining the WWE title against Goldberg. I don't even care if I'm wrong. I just have to predict that. Women's Rumble time. Let me cruise over here to the chat, make sure all is good. Pretty decent audience in here right now. That's pretty good. Do me a favor. Smash the thumbs up button for me. I'd appreciate it. And if you're just joining us tomorrow, we will be live reacting to the entire pay-per-view. Fun watch along here on the channel. we won't be doing the kickoff show. We'll get cracking when the main show starts, and I'll be up here hanging out, drinking Stella's, chilling with y'all, and we will watch this Royal Rumble together. Goldberg kicks out of 18 Claymores. I don't think it'll be that bad. But he's definitely going to kick out of something. I'm fine with him kicking out of a Claymore. I don't care. Just don't kick out of 6 and eventually lose. He can kick out of a Claymore. I won't complain. He's Goldberg. He's Goldberg. Of course he's going to kick out of a finish. Not that big a deal. Just don't do 9 of them bitches. Anyway, let's start with the final two. Next up, we're going to go with the Rumble matches, but we're going to start with the Women's Rumble. And by the way, I haven't seen any other additional last-minute matches added to this card, so I think it's just 6 matches. Tag title, women's title, 2 world titles, 2 Rumble matches, correct? I haven't seen Lashley and Riddle added, even though Riddle did earn himself an opportunity at the U.S. title. I have not seen that match added to the card yet. If it is, please let me know, but I don't think it is. I think this is going to be it. But we're probably going to get something on the kickoff, too, so God, I hope the U.S. title match isn't there. That would suck, but I suppose it could be. So we'll probably get some other match tomorrow, maybe just a throw-together match or some bullshit on the kickoff show, but we'll see. Devlin, you and your Goldberg winning both belts. You crazy. You crazy. Ha, that's actually a funny scenario. Shout out to Mike Jones Jr. in the chat. I don't think they're going to do this, but that would be fucking hilarious. If Sami Zayn won the Royal Rumble and challenged Big E, I would not care at all because that's something you would have never seen coming. It'd be hilarious, and I'm cool with that. Oh, I love that idea. I totally love that idea. That's funny. Anyway, let's talk about the Women's Royal Rumble match for tomorrow. Oh my God, so many ideas, so much to think about here. Plus, we only have about half the field announced for this. You know we're going to see some surprise entrants. I think we could see some NXT people. We also have a list of favorites that are likely to win this thing. And, of course, you got to think about all of the WrestleMania implications and what's going to happen and who this winner is going to wind up challenging for the title. And you also have to factor in Elimination Chamber next month, which I'm assuming that the women are going to have a match to determine who challenges the other champion at WrestleMania. Which I suppose could be a dual branded thing, couldn't it? Could the Elimination Chamber matches be both brands? Well, no, that wouldn't make sense. It's going to have to be whatever brand doesn't have a challenger for their championship. Yeah, that's the way it's going to have to go. So, assuming that's the case, you got to think about who are the favorites for the Women's Rumble tomorrow. Charlotte, Bayley, Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss. That's like my top 4 there. Now, that doesn't factor in all of the possible surprise entrants, the NXT people, and it doesn't even factor in who I have winning this thing. But let's talk about the top 4 there. Let's talk about Charlotte. We'll talk about Charlotte first. She won it last year, right? I don't think she's going to win it this year. I think Charlotte absolutely will be involved in a title match at WrestleMania. But I think she might be champion going into that thing. Like I said, I laid out the scenario with her and Asuka earlier on. Maybe they implode in their tag match, have an implosion there. They're now against each other or whatever. And then between now and WrestleMania, Charlotte beats her for the title. We talked about that as soon as Charlotte showed back up last month. At the end of the year, we talked about, oh shit, they might do this. So because of that, excuse me, I don't think they need to have Charlotte win the Royal Rumble 2 years in a row. That would be stupid. So Charlotte's not going to win. Okay, great. How is she going to get eliminated? One way is to have her and Lacey Evans maybe cancel each other out. Maybe Lacey, with some help from Ric Flair, maybe Ric Flair comes out and accompanies Lacey to the ring while Charlotte's in there, and Lacey throws her out, pissing off Charlotte. And now she's after Lacey, and they have a little mini feud. You could just wrap that shit up on Raw. You could do it at Elimination Chamber if you wanted, but I think they might be doing something else at the Chamber. So you either have Lacey eliminate Charlotte, setting up a Chamber match between the two, or maybe just a Raw match between the two. Or you could have Charlotte throw Lacey out and then do the thing where the eliminated person comes back in the ring and tosses Charlotte out and screws her. So that could happen. Or if Charlotte winds up being the one that throws out Lacey, Lacey's humiliated, she walks away mad with Ric Flair, and she doesn't come back in the ring and eliminate Charlotte. I got a pretty good idea of who they should have eliminate her, which we'll talk about in a minute. Another option is Bayley. Now, Bayley is one of the people that I would like to see win it the most, along with Bianca Belair. I love Bayley. And she dropped the match to Bianca last night on SmackDown completely clean. It would be a big deal for Bayley, who's been probably the best woman on the roster through all of 2020. She was fabulous and very entertaining and did an absolute marvelous job as a heel, and she was one of my favorite people to watch. Everything that she did this year in this horrible COVID-19 pandemic year of the crazy audience and the no audience and the Thunderdome and all this shit, she has been like probably the most entertaining she's ever been, being hindered by all these obstacles of the pandemic. So I think despite the pandemic, Bayley was one of the people in the company that shined the most. And I think rewarding her with a Royal Rumble victory would be great. And she could challenge her old best friend Sasha. Yeah, it's a match we've already seen, but at WrestleMania, it might be a special deal for them to be in the ring together at WrestleMania. So I would be totally fine with seeing Bayley win tomorrow. Bianca Belair is another one. We've talked about Bianca. I think I've mentioned her as my pick and my hope to win the Royal Rumble at least since October. You guys know how I feel about Bianca. She's awesome. We all saw her WWE Chronicle on the network, which was fantastic. You can't not root for Bianca. She's impossible not to love, and I would love to see her win. And we even set out, we talked about another scenario in recent weeks about the women's title, saying, you know, the winner of the Rumble isn't the only one that's going to get a title shot. Like I said, you're going to get a winner of the Elimination Chamber as well. And I think Bianca Belair could be a candidate to win the Chamber, not only the Rumble. And the other big name is probably Alexa Bliss. Now, I think with Alexa, it's going to be hard to get her eliminated, because I think what's going to happen is she might be able to pull some of her tricks. I don't know if they're going to try to edit the Rumble the way they do Monday Night Raw, where Alexa has wardrobe changes and shit, if they try to work any of that in there. But I would assume that she's going to spook the hell out of so many people that it's going to be hard to get her out of the ring. What I think might happen here is Randy Orton does something to get her out. Or maybe Alexa Bliss, maybe they cancel each other out. Maybe Alexa causes Orton's elimination in the men's Rumble and he causes her elimination in the women's. Like he causes her elimination here and then she gets revenge on him later on with possibly a returning Fiend. We'll talk about the men's Rumble in a minute and all the possible surprises we could have for that, but the Fiend is one of them. So Alexa Bliss in this situation, like I can't see her being the Alexa Bliss character that we've seen on TV lately, being real creepy, real weird. I can't just see, I don't know, Mandy Rose taking her and throwing her over the top rope. It's going to take more than that. It's going to take something else. So I think in the end, if Alexa doesn't win, it's going to be because she's going to get screwed. I don't think she gets tossed out normally by a normal woman in normal fashion. I think something weird is going to happen to get Alexa Bliss out of the match. And I think she will find a way to get eliminated, and that could have a lot to do with Randy Orton. So I'm not really, of the big favorites there, Charlotte, Bayley, Bianca, and Alexa, you could make a case for Bayley, Bianca, and Alexa. Charlotte, like I said, I ruled out. She won last year. No, she's not winning this year. She'll be in a title match at WrestleMania, but it won't be as a result of a Rumble victory. Bayley, Bianca, and Alexa, I'd actually be okay with all of them. I would. Bianca's probably my favorite just because I love her. Bayley's a close number 2, and Alexa is your distant third there. But you also got to think about who's going to show up. Who else is going to show up? Like I said, according to WWE.com, maybe half the field, maybe a little bit more is announced for this. You got some open slots. So who's going to fill these open slots? We talked about Becky Lynch. Like I said, I think that's a little bit soon for her. She just had the baby like less than 2 months ago. I don't think she's going to show up at the Royal Rumble. WrestleMania is a possibility, but I don't personally think she'll be at the Rumble tomorrow. I could be wrong, but I can't see that happening. But Becky is on the list. So is Ronda Rousey. I would love to see Ronda back in. And again, WWE, with the move to the Peacock Network, you know, is probably reaching out to everybody they can think of and say, hey, Ronda, you want to come back? You want to get back in the mix? I'd love to have Ronda back. I've missed Ronda. So I suppose she could show up. But again, if you were going to bring Ronda in, excuse me, I'd rather see her come out at like number 30, but they're giving away number 30 later on backstage in a little bit when Tamina takes on Natalya. So Ronda would be fun and a possibility, but again, I say no, because the only way Ronda would be in this thing is if she won it. And I think a lot of women on the roster this past year, since Ronda's been away, has done a really good job of picking up the slack from the void that Ronda left. And for her to come back now and just take a WrestleMania title match payday, I don't think would be doing a very good service to the women you have there currently that are working their asses off, like a Bianca Belair, like a Bayley, and people like that. And like an Alexa Bliss, who's completely reinvented herself with this character. So I'm going to vote no on Ronda Rousey too. I don't think we're going to see Ronda or Becky in the Royal Rumble. I think we could also see Sonya Deville. I'd love for Sonya Deville to come out and be in the Rumble when Mandy's in the ring, you know, because they had the big Loser Leaves Town match last year. Be cool to see those two come back together, come to blows, maybe even possibly be on the same page even if you wanted to go in that direction. But I think Sonya Deville would be awesome to see her make an appearance in this thing. And what about Trish Stratus? What about Trish? Not necessarily to win it, but just to be in it. Might be fun to see Trish come out there as a surprise. I'd be into that. And I also think we could see some NXT talent. Now, I got 3 in mind. Number 1 is Shotzi Blackheart. I think Shotzi would be awesome to be in the Royal Rumble. She'd come out with the tank and do the whole deal. That would be very cool and get a kick out of seeing, and it would be great for Shotzi. WWE really likes Shotzi. They feature her hard. She was the host of Halloween Havoc and all that stuff, and she's got a great character. And she's very unique, and I could see her being an entrant in the Rumble. I also think that Candice LeRae, somebody like her, could be in the Royal Rumble, and maybe even Raquel Gonzalez. What if you brought in Raquel and she did the 1994 Diesel thing? How many guys did Diesel eliminate in 94? A bunch. 10 or 11 or something like that. He was tossing guys out. Maybe not that many, but maybe have her toss out like 4 or 5 in the ring by herself. Just toss them over the top rope like sacks of garbage, until finally she runs into somebody big enough, strong enough to throw her out, which leaves me to my final big possible entrant into the Royal Rumble, somebody that I think is not only going to enter the Rumble, but potentially win it. You guys know who it is. My girl, Miss Ripley, Rhea Ripley, I think is definitely going to be an entrant in the Rumble. If you put Raquel Gonzalez in there, they've had their issues in NXT. Raquel's in there tossing out a bunch of people. Rhea Ripley comes out and eliminates Raquel. Get a little bit of revenge because she did put Raquel over on her way out in the last women's standing match, right? In NXT. Hasn't really been seen in NXT since. You know she's on the verge of coming up to the main roster. No better place to debut her than here. And if she does come in and she does win, look at what that sets up. And this is what I've talked about since December, or maybe even before that. Whenever the hell Charlotte came back, that's when we started talking about this. I'm like, holy shit, you now have Charlotte and Asuka together. They're a team. They're champions. What if they implode, break up, lose the tag titles? Now they're feuding. Charlotte at some point, whether it be on Raw or Elimination Chamber, or like I said, Fastlane, first pay-per-view on the Peacock Network, you could even promote this as a women's main event. And show this Peacock audience how progressive WWE is. We got women main eventing a pay-per-view. Like, they've done that before, but whole new audience being able to witness it now, and that match would be good. And you have a big title change on there, giving Charlotte the title. It doesn't have to be Fastlane. I just think Fastlane would be a good spot for that match, because that's a WrestleMania main event. That's a big match, Charlotte and Asuka. So putting it at Fastlane as the first pay-per-view on the network or on the Peacock Network would make a lot of sense. Doesn't have to be there, though. They could do it in Elimination Chamber. They could do it on Raw. One way or the other, sometime between now and the 2 nights of WrestleMania, Charlotte wins the title. Rhea Ripley wins the Royal Rumble. And unlike last year, now you do a role reversal, where last year Charlotte won the title, went to NXT, challenged Ripley, and she beat her. Word was apparently in the beginning, Rhea Ripley was supposed to beat Charlotte, but that got changed because of the Raw writing team clashed a little bit with the NXT writing team. And this still sucks, because if that's the case, why is the Raw writing team going to put Rhea Ripley over this time as opposed to last time? You know, they might still fuck her over here. But that match was so heavily built. I remember the little vignettes and the promos they would do with Ripley standing inside Raymond James Stadium, the empty stadium prior to the pandemic, looking around, envisioning and imagining what it's going to be like when she comes down that aisle in front of 70,000 people and faces Charlotte, as she says, for the title, and defends her title against her. And that moment never got to happen. Happened at the Performance Center. The match was great. But Charlotte won. Charlotte beat her. A lot of fans thought that wasn't the right decision. I personally was all right with it, because I thought it would be cool to see Charlotte in NXT. And I thought Rhea Ripley could bounce back from that. But much like the situation with Asuka a few years back, I was telling everybody not to panic. Don't worry, Asuka's not buried. And I was proven right, because she wasn't buried. Look at her now. She's fucking great. She's one of the top women in the company. I didn't think that was going to be the end of the world for Asuka, but it did take her a while to get back to that, right? She lost a lot of momentum. So even though I wasn't wrong, I was wrong in thinking she'd be just fine, because she did suffer there a little bit for that year before becoming, one of the strongest, women they have now. And then in terms of Rhea Ripley, it's like the same thing. Last year, I'm like, she can survive that. She can beat Charlotte for the belt back in NXT at a takeover or something, but that didn't happen. Io Shirai took the belt, and Rhea Ripley hasn't done anything since. So it's like Stella can get her groove back here. She can get back what she lost and make up for last year by not only winning the Royal Rumble, but then beating the person that beat you last year in a role reversal where this time she's champion and she's a bigger champion. She's the Raw Women's Champion now, not the NXT champion, and you beat her for that title and you get that moment, that victory in the stadium you were supposed to be in the year before. It was kind of a redemption, a full circle type of thing. That's why I think they could do something similar with Drew McIntyre. Might want to give him the moment that he lost last year, but I think Rhea Ripley would be the best possible outcome of everybody to win the Royal Rumble, because it sets up a kick-ass WrestleMania match for next year. And I think, WrestleMania, Charlotte's not going to lose every year at WrestleMania, but she won last year. It's time for her to drop one. And I think Rhea Ripley beating Charlotte at WrestleMania for the title, first of all, does nothing whatsoever to harm Charlotte at all. She's, every time she wins that belt or she drops the belt, she comes another step closer to having 36 titles on her career resume by the time it's over. So she'll probably win the title back relatively quick. It doesn't damage her status as a star at all in the company because she's Charlotte. It does a hell of a lot more for Rhea to win, than it would do for Charlotte to lose. So, and you'd make a huge star in the process. Rhea Ripley has got star power. She's great. She's young. She's good. She's strong. She has years and years ahead of her, and she can be your new Charlotte. She can be, you got to start planning for the future, and that's something that WWE really sucks at doing. And you got to, get your next generation ready. And I think we can all agree that Rhea Ripley is more than ready. And that scenario sets up for me a dream scenario at WrestleMania. Now, the reason I've kind of changed my tune on this, prior to this, I had talked about scenarios involving Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley. And at first, I thought that it would make the most sense for Bianca to win the Royal Rumble and then Rhea Ripley win the Elimination Chamber, because Rhea Ripley's more that like badass kind of hardcore chick. She wears leather and chains and metal in her gear. The Elimination Chamber is kind of a demonic structure. I feel like she would be more suited to win a match like the Chamber, and Bianca would be more suited to win a match like the Rumble. But it makes more sense for Rhea to win the Rumble, because you got to remember, if Rhea comes in as a surprise entrance, she doesn't have a brand. We won't know what brand she's on. So if she wins the title, or I'm sorry, she wins the Rumble and then challenges a champion, then we know what brand she's on. And I think Rhea Ripley is going to be on the Raw brand. I've never envisioned Rhea on SmackDown. I've always envisioned her on Raw. So if she wins the Royal Rumble, that allows her to challenge the Raw champion and puts her on Raw. And then on the Elimination Chamber, you can put all the SmackDown women, Bayley, Bianca, whoever the fuck else is over there in the Elimination Chamber match. Bianca comes out of the chamber now as the winner, and she can challenge then Shasha or something. So prior to that, I kind of had it reversed, but the more I thought about it, I was like, you know what? I think Rhea actually does need to win the Royal Rumble. That would set up the match I most want to see. I want to see Rhea get that victory back from Charlotte. And you guys remember when she won the NXT title at the end of the year or so ago, in December at the end of 2019, I guess, I was like, wow, she's going to be a star. I was so happy. I was Team Rhea. And then it all kind of faded, and then we had the pandemic, and everything's just kind of been kind of shitty for her. So her winning the Rumble here, she's not only am I picking her to win, she's also who I want to win. I might be making this prediction a little bit more with my heart than I am my head. Maybe some people see other scenarios that make a little bit more sense. But for me, that's who I would want to see. You would put now another huge star on your Raw roster. You got to assume Becky Lynch is going to be coming back this year at some point. You got some talent on that Raw side. Now, you put Rhea there. Now you got Charlotte. You got Asuka. You got Rhea Ripley. You've got a returning Becky Lynch at some point. And you've got Little Miss Bliss, which is really setting the world on fire with her character as well. Other than that, they don't have a whole lot to offer. But your core group of women is pretty strong on the Raw side. So that's my pick. Rhea Ripley. She's not currently even announced. It makes me very nervous to predict somebody that's not even announced for the match. But I think Rhea Ripley makes the most sense. And like I said, how she challenges, I don't know, because that scenario I laid out has her challenging Charlotte. We got to remember, Charlotte isn't the champion right now. Asuka is. So you still have to get the belt to Charlotte. And if they wait until Fastlane, which is WWE's first pay-per-view on the cock, that might be a little bit too long. What does Rhea Ripley do? Just make everybody wait? I suppose she could do that. Because I think Charlotte made people wait last year a little bit. Not long, though. But in order for Rhea to challenge Charlotte, and assuming the Charlotte-Asuka match takes place at Fastlane, Rhea would have to wait a while. She'd really have to drag her feet on announcing who she's going to challenge, and that might not fly. You might have to get this done prior to the Elimination Chamber because you need a reason to put all these women in the chamber. So she is probably going to challenge. Maybe she challenges Asuka. Maybe she just says, I'm challenging the Raw Women's Champion Asuka, but still, between now and then, Charlotte can beat her. That could be what they do. So maybe Rhea doesn't have to wait. Maybe she does originally challenge Asuka. She, and she could even give her reasonings to that as one dominant NXT talent facing another. I've always felt I was the best in NXT. I always felt like I dominated NXT, but you're the one person that's dominated more than everybody. You're the best. You're the measuring stick. I want to see what I can do against you. But then in the meantime, Charlotte winds up taking the belt from Asuka, setting up Charlotte and Rhea Ripley instead. You could also do a triple threat, which I wouldn't hate, but I'd prefer it if it was Rhea and Charlotte one-on-one. I hate to leave Asuka out. Trust me, I do. She's probably my favorite woman on the roster. I hate to leave her out, but in terms of the type of sense it makes for Charlotte and Rhea Ripley, I kind of feel like she's got to be left out. But you could make it a triple threat somehow. I don't know how you get there, but you could. I mean, they inserted Charlotte into the Becky and Ronda match a couple years ago. They could do it again. And then maybe Rhea in that triple threat pins Asuka, and then Charlotte survives without having to get pinned but loses the belt or something. I don't know. And Rhea wins. Either way, I think Rhea Ripley should win the title at WrestleMania. Now, I talked about earlier on in the Royal Rumble, I'm eliminating Charlotte from the possibilities here. I don't think Charlotte needs to win it 2 years in a row. I think she can easily be involved in a title match at WrestleMania without even needing this Rumble victory. So even though she's a favorite, we got to get her out of there. And Asuka is a favorite too, but I don't see her win it, or she's not even in it. Excuse me, she's champion. So Charlotte has got to get out of there sometime, and somehow. And I mentioned the possibility of maybe Lacey eliminating her, maybe with help from Ric Flair, or they could go the other direction and just have Charlotte toss Lacey out. Now, if they do that, who throws out Charlotte? It could be Rhea Ripley. They could do exactly with Rhea and Charlotte what they did with McIntyre and Brock last year. Remember? Because Brock was in the Rumble. And McIntyre eliminated him, Claymored him right over the top rope. So, and then still win at a WrestleMania and beat him. So you could do that. You could have Charlotte in the ring by herself. Rhea Ripley's music hits. They battle in the ring and Rhea tosses her out and then goes on to win the Royal Rumble. And then between now and then, like I said, Charlotte somehow beats Asuka for the title, and you set up the rematch, Rhea Ripley in Charlotte, this time actually in Raymond James Stadium in front of fans, and you give Rhea Ripley the goddamn victory back and the win back from last year and give her the title. So that's my prediction. Final prediction, Women's Royal Rumble, Rhea Ripley. Leaving us with the Men's Royal Rumble. Holy crap. What a mess this thing is. Oh, I like that idea. Mick Destiny, Jay White being a surprise entrance. It's possible. Make sure I didn't miss any super chats. I think I at least missed one. And if I missed any others than this, I apologize since the comments are coming in hard. Ramon Coffee, you're the last one I see. If there's anybody before you, I really am sorry for missing that. Thanks for the $5. I finally got some replica belts. Did you nail your belts to the wall? I didn't nail them to the wall. I put nails in the wall and then hung them on the snap holes. You know what I mean? Yeah, but don't be putting nails through your belt. But no, if you just stick it's kind of hard to get it level, but if you play with it enough, you can do it. But yeah, I got all nails on mine that are hung up back there. Are you the only one that don't give a damn about the Women's Rumble? No, I give a big damn about the Women's Rumble, especially with my Rhea Ripley scenario. Got another one coming in. Deshaun, appreciate the 5 as well from you. The recent Rumble odds, Women's Rumble, are Bianca 1, Bliss 2, Rhea 3. Okay, at least she's in it. Men's Rumble, 1 Bryan, 2 Edge, 3 Lesnar. Lesnar's on my list too. Which brings us to that Men's Royal Rumble. Yeah, great, Kali. One thing people have to understand, though, too, like, it drives me so crazy when I see these fucking people. Charlotte's so selfish, and Charlotte and this and Charlotte that. I mean, they still do what WWE tells them. Like Goldberg, as much as I can't stand him, I'm not blaming him if he beats Drew McIntyre. I am 1,000,000% putting the blame on WWE. Not a drop of it falls on Goldberg's shoulders. He's, it's like it's his fault that WWE wants to pay him millions of dollars to go out there and do dumb shit and win matches. This is WWE that wants this. So I don't ever very, very rarely blame the talent for shit like that. And Charlotte is awesome. You can be a Charlotte fan like I am. You can defend Charlotte like I do, but still understand and agree when it's time for her to lose a match at WrestleMania. Like I absolutely feel this year she should lose to Rhea Ripley. She doesn't have to lose every match she's in. Last year I was cool with her being Rhea Ripley. The year before, a couple years before, I was cool with her beating Asuka. I was the only one on planet Earth that did not have a problem with her beating Asuka. Everybody else wanted to jump off a fucking bridge. And I'm like, this is not a big deal. And it wasn't. I didn't think it was. Asuka was fine. Everybody's fine. So nobody was buried in that situation, especially in a really, really good match like that. It was totally fine. But in this situation, what is absolutely not needed is for Charlotte to go in there, win the Royal Rumble, and then go into WrestleMania and win the title again. Like, that's completely not needed, and I don't think that's in the cards for her this year. But she will be in a high-profile match. You can absolutely guarantee that. Oh, man. Yeah, that's a good one, too. Yeah, if you get Jay White in the Rumble, and then he's, in there with Nakamura or something. Holy crap. All right, let's see. Let's get to the men's Rumble now. Excuse me. And start talking about this. Like we did with the women's Rumble match, we're going to talk about the favorites here. The favorites for this Royal Rumble appear to be, according to what we've been seeing on TV, Daniel Bryan, Edge, Sheamus, Keith Lee, who's now out because he is self-isolating, I guess, with Mia Yim, who tested positive for COVID. So it appears that Keith Lee is out of the Rumble. That sucks because I didn't have him winning, but I had him doing some things in there. Also, the returning Braun Strowman from last night, you can't not include him. Randy Orton is another one. AJ Styles, Nakamura, or Cesaro. They seem to be the top tier there that they're really pushing hard as potential winners for this thing. We also got to talk about other possible winners who are not announced yet and surprise entrants. Now, in terms of the other possible winners or the favorites, we've talked a lot about Goldberg coming back in and winning the Royal Rumble, which would fucking suck. Roman Reigns, same thing. Somebody laid out a scenario of Owens beating Roman, and Goldberg beating Drew, and then Roman shows up and wins the Rumble and goes into WrestleMania to face Goldberg, the match that we were supposed to get last year. I guess that looks okay on paper, but I want nothing to do with that scenario. So I really hope, and I really, in my heart of hearts, don't think that it will be Goldberg or Roman. I don't think it's going to be either one of those. That would be stupid. But it could, but I don't want to see that. We do not need Goldberg doing double duty anywhere. He needs to be doing single duty or preferably no duty because his matches are duty. And I don't want to see him in the Royal Rumble at all. But Goldberg and Roman, you at least have to put on the list. Another big name, Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar. He was in the Rumble last year, got tossed out. I can totally see him coming in, winning it, and challenging Drew in a WrestleMania rematch. We could get a couple of WrestleMania rematches. That's the thing. I don't think we'd get two of them, though. I don't think we'd get Rhea and Charlotte and Brock and Drew. Unless they really just want to recreate last year for some reason. I suppose that maybe we could do that. But Brock Lesnar is somebody that maybe doesn't necessarily turn up tomorrow, but turns up before WrestleMania. Like I said, with the move to Peacock, I find it very hard to believe that WWE is not going to do everything they can do, especially on a 2-night event. You got to remember, WrestleMania is. They're going to do everything they can do to get every piece of talent and star they can get. And you bet your bottom dollar that even if Brock doesn't have any interest in coming in, they're probably like, well, name your fucking price. And, he might do it. So Brock is on the list. And also The Fiend. We know we're going to see The Fiend back at some point. I think here's one time I agree with it. And lately, I've kind of been complaining about this. I always hate when people say, oh, so-and-so doesn't need the title. The Fiend doesn't need the title. This stupid opinion started back in the day when people were trying to justify reasons why Rowdy Piper and Jake the Snake Roberts didn't win world titles. They didn't need to win world titles. That's stupid. Everybody needs to win the world title. However, this is one situation where I would actually agree with that. The Fiend has got so much going on. He might be he's probably in line for a repackage here. He's probably going to debut with a whole different look or something after being burned. He's got the Randy Orton stuff going on. He's got the Alexa Bliss stuff going on. There's so much going on there. Adding a championship belt to that scenario would be too much. For once, I agree with he doesn't need it. I agree. I actually agree. The Fiend does not need to win the Royal Rumble. I always hate when people say that, but this is one scenario where it fits. Because that's a problem with a lot of opinions like this, is sometimes people say it because they like to say it, but it doesn't make sense. Makes sense here. The Fiend does not need to win the Royal Rumble. So if he doesn't need to win the Royal Rumble, does he need to be in it? Maybe, because Randy Orton's in it. So either maybe Alexa Bliss has something to do with Randy Orton's elimination, because he RKO'd her last week on Raw, or the Fiend comes out, or maybe just maybe the Fiend is not even an entrant in the Rumble. Maybe he just comes out to fuck with Randy Orton. Lights go out, come back on. You see a brand new looking Fiend in the ring, especially if they do a situation where Randy Orton somehow winds up in the ring by himself. Tosses a couple of guys out. He's up there with his baked potato face in the middle of the ring, waiting for somebody. Lights go out, come back on, and some new look Fiend is standing behind him, and he turns around and he gets mandible clawed and tossed over the top rope. Lights go out again, and the Fiend disappears. He's not even in the Rumble. He just showed up there to eliminate Randy and went away, planting the seed. Well, not that you need the seed planted. It's already planted, but setting up whatever crazy-ass fucking match it looks like they're going to do now at WrestleMania. Do you really think that we're going to get the Funhouse match or something at Elimination Chamber or Fastlane? I suppose we could, but it would also be cool if we kept the Fiend if we didn't bring him back tomorrow and bring him back. Maybe have him appear. Maybe we see him, but we don't see him on TV regularly as we get closer to WrestleMania, or maybe even not until WrestleMania at all. Maybe Randy Orton takes on the Fiend at WrestleMania without seeing him after the Royal Rumble or something. I don't know. I don't know how you do the build on TV to that, but you got a ways to go to get to WrestleMania, so it feels like that could be what they're building for here. And we had all heard months back and months out that the original plan was to have Edge and Orton again this year. But I don't feel like that's really in the cards right now. You got to do a lot of things to get to that. You know, Edge has got to come back and not win the Royal Rumble. Then you got to have Randy Orton get on the other side of his feud with Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss, and then you put them back together for WrestleMania. It doesn't seem like there's enough time to do that, unless Edge wins the Rumble and then Randy Orton wins the title or something. I don't know how that's going to work. So to me, a Randy Orton and Edge match at WrestleMania right now does not seem likely. So that means Randy Orton and The Fiend should probably hold off this payoff as long as they can and do that at WrestleMania again in another Funhouse match. 2 in a row. Faces Cena in 1 year and Orton in the other. Maybe he beats them both. Cena and Orton back-to-back WrestleManias. That wouldn't be a bad feather to have in the cap of Bray Wyatt when you really think about it. And now that I said his name out loud, I kind of completely fucking forgot about him. John Cena. Of all the speculation and all the note-taking I was doing last night preparing for this predictions podcast, I didn't even think about Cena. Cena could definitely be in this thing, and Cena could win this thing. He really could. I think John Cena absolutely will break Ric Flair's record. I also think at some point John Cena's got to win the Universal title. But I ain't trying to see John Cena beat Roman Reigns right now either. So, I don't know. Cena still seems unlikely, but he could definitely turn up in this thing as well, and you got to at least think about him. In terms of other surprise entrants, though, like we talked about with the women, I think Shotzi Blackheart will show up for the women. I think potentially Raquel Gonzalez could show up doing the 1994 Diesel thing in the ring for a little while. And we could see Candice LeRae and some others. So I think the same could be true for the men's Rumble. One NXT talent I think we are almost guaranteed to see is the guy that was supposed to be moved up to the main roster a few weeks back, Damien Priest. I think Damien Priest will be an entrant in the Royal Rumble. I think it would be really cool if Adam Cole was. I don't recall, was Adam Cole in last year's? Has he appeared in a Rumble yet as a surprise NXT entrant? He might have. I think it would be cool to see Adam Cole again. Maybe a Johnny Gargano. Maybe a Timothy Thatcher. Maybe a Ciampa. I'd be cool with any of those people making an appearance in the Royal Rumble. And like we also talked about earlier, because we have, what is it? Big Daddy? What the fuck is this fucker's name? Big Daddy? Oh, Big Bunny. Bad Bunny. Excuse me. Bad Bunny is going to be performing his hit single Booker T, which makes me think Booker T should be in this damn thing. I saw Booker T on the Jericho Cruise. Dude is in shape. He is in shape. He looks like he could easily whip some ass in that ring. And I think Booker T should definitely be in the Rumble. Here's another surprise that I really, really, really want to see from my own personal heart. And I hope you guys agree with this. We have Edge in the Royal Rumble, correct? Let's just say Edge finds him in the ring, finds himself in the ring all by himself. And we go to the countdown of 10 seconds. You get down to 3, 2, 1, and Christian's music hits. Christian. I know he's kind of quietly retired, but I think he's in shape enough to maybe make a Rumble appearance. Christian comes out, comes to the ring, gets in the ring face to face with Edge. They hug each other, and for the benefit of us with flash photography, they do a 2-minute pose and give us a 2-minute pose for 2 minutes. They don't fight at all. Wait for the next guy to come out, and maybe like they toss out 2 or 3 guys together until somebody comes out and stops at Braun Strowman or something like that, and then the match kicks back off. I think to have Christian and Edge in the ring together again for probably the last time ever would be really cool to see. So I really hope that Christian is in the Royal Rumble. That would absolutely warm my heart if he was able to have some sort of an interaction with Edge. That would be great. I don't think he would toss Edge out, but maybe it could happen. Maybe Edge could toss him out after they hug and do the pose. Maybe Edge grabs him and tosses him out, and they kind of shake hands, and Christian's cool with it or whatever, doesn't even really care. But I think Christian would be a great option, provided he's okay and he's healthy and he can physically work. He's one of the people I want to see the most, just because it would be cool to see ENC in the ring again for the first time in I don't know how many years. Over 10, right? Sorry, just peeking at the chat there. Yeah, Captain Charisma, Christian, right? Like, how cool would that be? Just for a moment for the fans, because that's what the Royal Rumble can give us. It can give us fans little moments like that you never thought you'd see again or whatever, and it would be important to me as a fan. So I really want to see Christian in there. We also have to talk about Braun Strowman. He's in this thing too, and the way he came out last night on SmackDown looking like such a crazy fucking lunatic, it's going to be hard to get him out of there. This is the guy that main evented night 1 of WrestleMania last year, beating Goldberg. So you can't just cast him aside. It's going to have to be a deal where everybody gangs up on him and tosses him out, or somebody big and bad eliminates him. Now, my original thought for him would be someone like Keith Lee. Keith Lee eliminating Braun Strowman. A lot of people had Keith Lee winning the Royal Rumble. I never really did, but he was definitely on my maybe pile. But Keith Lee apparently is not going to be in the Rumble because Mia Yim has tested positive for COVID, and he's probably quarantined. So he's not going to be in this thing, which sucks. So that leaves the door open for somebody to eliminate Strowman. I think maybe Sheamus. Sheamus has been impressing everybody. I like Sheamus more now than I ever have liked him in his entire career. Maybe when he was with the Bar, when him and Cesaro were together, I really enjoyed that tag team. But as a single star, never cared much about Sheamus. Does Sheamus deserve to win the Royal Rumble? Absolutely, he does. Will he? Probably not. Sheamus does not seem like the type of guy that doesn't have the star power for what WWE is going to be looking for WrestleMania, for their title matches. And so you kind of have to rule out Sheamus, but I think it would be cool if he caught Big Strowman with a bro kick and sent his ass over the top rope. That would be a big elimination for Sheamus. And then eventually he gets eliminated by somebody else or whatever the fuck, but he'll eventually be out of there. So those are some more possibilities. But in terms of the favorites, let's backtrack to the favorites now. Let's talk about some of these guys. I think dark horse picks could be a Nakamura or Cesaro, which personally I would love. But again, much like Sheamus, are any of those guys the guys that WWE is going to go with into WrestleMania with this new $1 billion deal they've got with Peacock? I don't think so. So I think they're a long shot, and they've only been featured heavily on TV as potential winners and been looking strong on TV, getting some big victories. I think the reason they've been doing that is so the fans can consider them real, actual potential threats, which is smart. You want to add as many potential winners to the fans' minds as possible instead of just like 1 or 2 guys. A couple of weeks ago, I reviewed the Royal Rumble 1995. I remember those days. One of my least favorite things about that match is it could only be like 1 or 2 guys. The whole thing was fucking jobbers, except for like Shawn Michaels and the Bulldog and Lex. Everybody else was just schmucks. So none of those guys are going to win. Timothy Wells not going to win. Dick Murdoch's not going to win. So it's going to be probably Shawn or, one of the 2 or 3 big stars in there. Where the way they've been using guys like Nakamura and Cesaro on TV lately, it opens up the door for a lot of different possibilities. So I think they're dark horse picks, and then Sheamus is a white horse pick, but I think none of those guys are going to win it. AJ Styles is another guy. AJ Styles is another guy that could win, possibly, but it's unlikely. I think it would be cool for AJ to have that accolade in his pocket. Say, I won a Royal Rumble. But another thing they could do with AJ is maybe You got to think about what AJ is going to do at the Royal Rumble and what some of these other guys are going to do at the Royal Rumble. And actually, I'll save that for who I'm going to talk about in a minute, but I got another idea for AJ. Like I said earlier, Randy Orton's another possibility as well, but I think Alexa Bliss or maybe a returning Fiend. And the thing about the Fiend is he doesn't necessarily have to be in the Royal Rumble. A minute ago, I said, what if Randy Orton finds himself in the ring alone? Lights go out, lights come back on. A brand new look Fiend is standing behind Randy Orton. Mandible Claw throws him over the top rope. Lights go off. Fiend disappears. Not even in the match. And then for the first time in Royal Rumble history, you got an empty ring. That might be a little bit dead spot in there if you have an empty ring, because then one person's got to come out and stand there for 2 minutes. But if it's the right person, it could be great. If it's a returning person or if it's somebody that's really good on the mic, if it's The Rock, or something, or he could come out and talk for 2 minutes until the next guy came out. So that would be, technically okay. But I think in the end, with everything Randy Orton's got going on with The Fiend, him winning the Royal Rumble doesn't make sense. He just had the title, dropped it back to Drew. I can't see him challenging for it at WrestleMania. Nothing about Randy Orton winning the Royal Rumble makes sense. So we got to eliminate him. But he's at least on the favorites list. We talked about Strowman. I think Keith Lee, who's not in the Rumble, should have eliminated him. Maybe Sheamus bro kicks him over the top rope. Sheamus, obviously, as much as he's a white horse pick, I don't think he'll win. Leaving me with the two that I'm really struggling between. Number one is Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan. Of course, WWE, they owe us Daniel Bryan. They did us so wrong. Not only in 2014, but especially in 2015. In Philly, when they had Roman Reigns win this, Daniel Bryan was champion. He won the belt at WrestleMania 30, got hurt. He never really got a chance to get his run off and running, and now he's back. The fans want to see him win the Rumble, but WWE is like, no, we're not going to do it. So they eliminate him really early in a very unremarkable type of way. And I guess the thought was that, get him out early, let the fans freak out, and they'll be cheering by the end of the match or something. And that is not what happened at all. They shit completely on the rest of that Royal Rumble. You guys have to tell me if you guys agree with me or not. That is the worst Royal Rumble of all time, right? And we've had some bad ones. I just reviewed one, 1995. 2015 was the worst Royal Rumble of all time because of the atrocious booking and the boneheaded, stupid fucking mistake and decisions that WWE makes when the fans are clearly saying what they want. You give them the opposite, and they made it be known that they were not happy with that outcome. Even The Rock couldn't get a cheer out of these guys. Remember that look on The Rock's face when he was like, God damn, they're pissed. They owe us Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan, maybe deep down, is the one I want to win this the most. And that's why it definitely feels like a possibility along with another guy, because I've got a really good idea for WrestleMania for these guys. And it's something that you might not be expecting to hear me say, and it has to do with Roman Reigns. But let's say Daniel Bryan does win the Royal Rumble. They do us right. They make up for the nonsense of 2015. Bryan wins the Rumble, big celebration, holy shit. He's going into WrestleMania now to challenge, I guess, anybody he wants, but in the end, he winds up challenging Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns, they have history. They got a lot of history. That 2015 Royal Rumble is a little part of it, too. And I also think that did they work? What year did they work at Fastlane? They also worked there, and Roman beat them or something. So they've got a lot of history with each other. They've even had a few run-ins on SmackDown since Roman's been back as this badass Paul Heyman accompanying heel. And if Daniel Bryan wins, he could challenge Roman Reigns for the title. And then you got Bryan and Roman, which is awesome. But like I said earlier, not all fairy tales have happy endings. Sometimes reality hits you. We see that in sports that are not fixed, like the UFC. Conor McGregor's big comeback got his ass knocked the fuck out in the second round or something like that. And I think having a little bit more realistic tone to your booking isn't a bad thing. The fans are a little spoiled bitches. I want what I want. Sometimes you have to look at wrestling. You're supposed to suspend your disbelief, right? So look at wrestling as if it's legit. Daniel Bryan winning the Royal Rumble, this redemption story. I finally won the Royal Rumble like I should have won in 2014 and 15, or both. And now I finally won that. I'm going into WrestleMania to take on my arch rival, Roman Reigns. We've had a ton of history and a lot of wars over the years, and I'm going to beat him. But guess what? He doesn't beat him. Roman beats him clean, spears him, and leaves him in a pool of blood, just like Brock did to Roman at WrestleMania 34, and retains the title and continues to roll with the title all the way into SummerSlam. I think that Daniel Bryan, if he faced Roman Reigns, should not win the title. I think he should win the Royal Rumble and not win the title. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to win the title. Every Rumble winner doesn't have to win the title. Sometimes shit should be a little bit realistic. And you might have the story here with Daniel Bryan, his road back to the top, the Rumble victory. He went that Saudi Arabia Greatest Royal Rumble. Didn't he go like 70 minutes? He knows what he's doing in Royal Rumble. He can last. He can survive. He can have a Rey Mysterio or Shawn Michaels or Rick Martel or Ric Flair performance in the Royal Rumble, win it, the big celebration, go into WrestleMania and lose. Because sometimes you lose. The New York Yankees lost the World Series in 2001, 4 weeks after 9/11. You know, when everybody should have been rallying around. I mean, the Lakers could have easily lost the finals this year when everything was dedicated to Kobe. It doesn't always go the way you want it to go. And it would be more realistic for Daniel Bryan to go into WrestleMania and not win. And I think that scenario could be the same for another person. And that, I think, is actually going to be the person I'm going to predict. My final answer, my final prediction for the Royal Rumble is Edge. Edge. Want to know why? Because of Monday. It was the fans were pissed that they announced him returning, but I don't think this was much of a surprise. I think we all assumed we would see Edge in the Royal Rumble. And plus, can you beat what happened last year? That is what went on last year at the Royal Rumble with Edge is going to go down as one of the greatest moments in the history of the wrestling business. It cannot be topped. I will never forget the feeling that it gave me in my heart, in the pit of my stomach, when Edge came out there and he had that look on his face. And the way, he was just like, I'm fucking doing it. I'm fucking doing it. I can't believe I'm here. Like, what must have been going on in his head? His eyes, his face told the whole story. You can't recreate that. You can't duplicate it. You can't beat it. I have no need or no interest in seeing Edge come out as a surprise again, because nothing's going to beat that other surprise. Instead, you get Edge coming back, announcing his return, and cutting one of the best promos I've ever fucking heard. And it made a lot of sense, too, the way, he talked about how, 10 years ago, he retired as champion at WrestleMania 27. And, the past 10 years, he's been dreaming about getting back in the ring and, returning and being able to come back and do all this stuff. And he brought up his mom, who just recently passed away. It was like, my mom would tell me to do it. So here I am. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to give it every fucking thing I have. Very intense promo, very good promo. And they really made a story out of Edge to the point where it was such a good promo. I'm like, how the hell is this guy going to get eliminated? And if he does, who eliminates him? So when I started narrowing it down, I'm like, okay, if Edge is going to be in this Rumble, one of two things has to happen. He either, number one, has to win it, or he has to set up whoever he's going to work with at WrestleMania. And like we said, Randy Orton's kind of busy with The Fiend right now. That idea that it was going to be Orton and Edge again at WrestleMania doesn't seem like there's a path to that right now. They could still do it, but it doesn't feel like there's a clear path to that. Orton's busy. He's got his hands and his face full right now with an invisible Fiend and Little Miss Crazy-Ass Bliss. So Orton and Edge doesn't seem any time to put that together for WrestleMania. I could be wrong, but I don't see it. So if Edge does not win the Royal Rumble, who eliminates him? The only other possibility is who I mentioned earlier on, AJ Styles. I think if Edge does get eliminated and maybe sets up whoever his opponent is going to be at WrestleMania, it could be AJ Styles. Here's why. AJ eliminates him, and it also sets up now a big match for AJ. And he can say, in the build or the promo to this, he can say something like, last year, I wrestled a legend. I retired The Undertaker. He could pretend that he retired him, because technically he did, but he lost the match. I faced one legend and lost last year. I want to get that back. I want to redeem myself. And one way I can do that is making a second legend never wrestle again. I want to be The Undertaker's last match, and I want to be Edge's last match. Edge, AJ Styles would be a great non-title attraction match on the show that would be good. AJ worked great with Shane and Chris Jericho at WrestleMania. AJ can definitely work a good match with Edge. And there would be a story there. The Undertaker thing from last year, facing one legend one year and another legend the next, and wanting to be the one to retire Edge. Because, like I said, he can claim that he retired The Undertaker and then say, Edge, I'm going to retire you too. This is going to be your last match. I'm going to end your career. And that could be a good WrestleMania program. I think it would be super fun, Edge and AJ Styles. But it's not what I want to see the most. I think what would be great is to have Edge win the Royal Rumble. Now, if he won the Royal Rumble, this means, because if he doesn't win the Royal Rumble and he gets eliminated by AJ, like I said, that stays on his brand. Raw, match at WrestleMania, AJ Styles versus Edge. You can do all the build on Raw. You don't have to do anything crazy. But if you want to move Edge's star power and Edge's promo skills to Fox, which I've always thought WWE was eventually going to do, then winning the Royal Rumble is a good way to do that. Edge could win the Royal Rumble, have the glorious moment, jump to SmackDown to face Roman Reigns, because, then you got to think about it. He's either going to face Goldberg or Drew or Roman. God, even saying that freaks me out. But I don't know what his reasonings would be for his character. He's going to have to give us a reason why he's choosing Roman Reigns to face Roman Reigns over a Drew McIntyre or over a Goldberg. Got a whole lot of spears going on here. Somebody on Twitter today mentioned a triple threat between Goldberg, Edge, and Roman. Hell no. That match would be so bad. Roman and Edge need to be, just having Goldberg in there a triple threat would fuck up any match. So I don't want to see that. But if Edge won the Rumble, he can now jump to SmackDown. Now it gives Fox another big star power, and Edge can cut promos like no other. And just think about it. Take a deep breath, stay silent, give it a moment of silence, and think about the promos during the build between Edge and Roman Reigns and even Paul Heyman. Edge is very intense, comeback story, and Roman is so savage. Edge, I'm going to make sure not only do you not wrestle again, you're not going to walk again. And just what is your family going to think? What's Beth and your 2 kids going to think when their dad is rolling around in their house in Asheville with a wheelchair? You like to hike and kayak and things like that, Edge? How would it feel to never be able to do that again? Because the tribal chief broke both your legs and paralyzed you, or just intense, just really threaten Edge, make you fearful, for Edge's safety in the WrestleMania match. But, he wants to prove himself against the best or whatever, and Roman is the top dog, especially if Goldberg has the title. Goldberg's a part-timer. So Edge could use the excuse that he wants to face WWE's current top star. He wants to face that person. That's the measuring stick. He's the pinnacle. If I beat him, I know I'm the best in the world, type of thing. And he could use that as a reason to challenge Roman. But here's the catch. Just like with Daniel Bryan, if that match happens, Edge does not win. He doesn't win. It doesn't have to be a fairy tale. You don't always get what you want. Sometimes life sucks. Sometimes you're just not strong enough to overcome something. And Edge, even though he's got the story there, getting back to the top, I think I would have, as a fan, just as much respect for Edge if he put Roman over instead of winning the title. Because winning the title is almost predictable. Storybook moment. It would be great for Edge. It would be great for the fans. I would love it. I'm a huge Edge fan. I've been an Edge mark all my life. But at the same time, I'm also realistic, and I'm smart about how I think WWE should book the future. And Edge, coming back at his age, he only wrestled twice last year and got injured. He's pretty injury prone. He's been on the shelf a lot throughout his career. Lots of surgeries, Achilles, stuff like that, neck problems, everything that he's had. He's been out a lot. And for him to come back and to be able to use some of his star power to really put over somebody else, might even be looked at as a better use of his star power and of his name. Not that Edge can't win the title. He can I want to see Edge win a world title again. Absolutely. 100%. But maybe not necessarily at WrestleMania. Maybe it happens later on in 2021. Maybe it happens in 2022, right before he retires. Maybe he comes back next year and says, last year, Roman, had my number or whatever, but I want to give it one more shot. Maybe he wins it next year. But I think my final prediction is that Edge will win the Royal Rumble, and he'll challenge Roman Reigns. He'll move to Fox, and Edge will be over there on Fox. That keeps Edge and Orton separated for a little while too, until you finally decide to bring them back together. It moves Edge and his amazing promo abilities to Fox, and as a wrestling fan, as a fan, and we all know how outsiders kind of thumb their noses at wrestling and they snicker at it and they make fun of us because it's fucking stupid sometimes. But if you get some Edge and Roman Reigns promos on SmackDown, on Fox, on national TV, I'm not embarrassed at all to be a wrestling fan. If you give me Edge, Roman Reigns, and Paul Heyman in the same ring together, I'm not embarrassed at all. I'm hoping that non-fans are watching that. Where I freak out when I see some of the crazy shit, when I see Bianca Belair and Bayley going through an obstacle course, I'm like, God damn, please don't have any non-fans watching right now. Because when they make fun of us for watching wrestling, this is why. But if you get something like that build scenario, the build between those guys between now and WrestleMania would be so good, would be so fun. The promos would be lotion worthy, if you know what I mean. And that would be great. And in the end, Roman fucking beats him and continues his run. And then the other title, Drew's title or Goldberg's title, depending on who the hell's going to be champion, that one changes hands at WrestleMania. But Edge goes in, the big story, everybody thinks he's going to win, and then Roman beats him. And that would maybe help get Roman over a little bit more as a heel, because if you notice, it's really interesting how fucked up WWE is and also how fucked up the fans are. Roman Reigns is a dirtbag, savage heel, but the fans have never loved him more. How weird is that? So you would maybe want some actual real heat to get back on Roman, because before, when he was babyface, these morons were like, oh, he never wants to do a job and he's selfish and all this shit. Had nothing to do with Roman. Had WWE just wanting to push him. But now if you get a story like Edge's, a comeback story, you know, and we all love Edge and he gets a big moment at WrestleMania, everybody thinks he's going to win the title, and then he gets hit with a big dose of reality. And Roman spears him and pins him and beats him. And then now the fans are pissed because they didn't get what they want. And whenever they don't get what they want, they lash out. Oh, it's really stupid. And it's all of a sudden everything's stupid. Oh, it's the dumbest thing. You just buried Edge. That's what they're going to say. They're going to say Edge is buried. But I think that's great. I think it's great to get the fans riled up. I think it's great when they get filled with this misguided rage. Because that's every time they're mad, it's 9 times out of 10 is misguided rage. They don't know what the fuck they're mad about. They're just mad. So then you're going to start hearing shit like burial and, oh my God, WWE sucks Roman's cock, all this stuff. And that would get Roman a little bit more of that heel heat that he doesn't really have right now. Because every time we watch Roman on TV, we're like, he's marvelous. He's a great heel. So when he's a babyface, everybody hates his fucking guts. But when he's a heel, everybody loves him. So if he beats Edge and he shocks the fans when everybody thinks Edge is going to get this big moment and then he wins and retains, because sometimes life happens, that could maybe help his heel persona a little bit more. A lot like the scenario I laid out earlier. That's why I think fans would be important for this. But a couple weeks back when I was like, oh, for the Rumble, they should make a stipulation to where if Jay interferes, that Roman loses the belt, and then you have Jimmy interfere instead, but the referee doesn't notice it, calls for the bell, awards Owens the victory, Jimmy reveals it's him, and then the referee has no choice but to start the match, and then Roman takes the title. That would give him a ton of heel heat too. So my prediction is that Edge is going to win the Royal Rumble, challenge Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, and lose. That's my prediction. But there are a lot of other scenarios. Brock Lesnar is still in my mind. If I've got, even more so than Daniel Bryan, if I'm trying to pick winners, like more than what, like I got Edge at the top of my list. I thought Daniel Bryan would be number 2, but Brock might be 3. I think Brock has a very good case to come back and win this thing too, because it sets up a bunch of possible shit. Assuming McIntyre retains, which is not an assumption and not a guarantee at all, very good chance he loses, but that would be a rematch from last year. Brock might want to challenge Drew McIntyre, but where's his advocate? Where's Paul Heyman on another brand, managing a different dude? So if Brock comes back and wins the Royal Rumble, holy shit. Brock and Roman? Yes, please. I want to see Brock and Roman every bit as bad as I want to see Brock and Edge. And before anybody says it, because I know you're already typing, stop typing. What? 5 times? You want to see that match 5 times? This is the first time it's ever happened. If Roman Reigns faces Brock Lesnar, it will be the first time we see this match. We have never seen this Roman Reigns, this version of Roman Reigns taking on this version of Brock Lesnar. And unlike all the previous encounters, there's a story that we actually care about now. Because now Paul Heyman is in the middle of this thing. And what is Brock's relationship going to be with him when he comes back? Is he going to be pissed? You did business with this guy behind my back after all the wars we've had together? How dare you? Or, you know, does he come back and win the title on Raw, and then the two of them become a 2-man power trip, and they form an alliance with that, with Heyman representing both of them? There's a lot of possibilities here if Brock was going to come back and win the Royal Rumble. And prior to Monday night on Raw, Brock was the guy I was going to predict on my predictions video. Last week, I was like, you know what? I'd like it to be Daniel Bryan, but I think I'm going to predict Brock because of the possible Roman thing. But after the promo that Edge cut and making it so specific, you know, and what he wants to do, I'm like, man, that would be a great story too for Edge. So I kind of changed my pick, and I kind of think it should be Edge now and maybe going into Mania. But Brock is a definite possibility, and I would love to see Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns collide. But part of the reason why I'm picking Edge over the Brock scenario, even though I think Brock is very likely, is because I don't think Brock's going to, if Brock does wrestle Roman Reigns, Roman's got to beat him clean. K-L-E-E-N. Clean. Absolutely clean. In the middle of the ring. Because none of this fucking chair over the face pin shit or anything like that. I think Roman needs to do to Brock a lot like what Brock did to him throughout their feuds over the years, because Brock always had Roman's number. And even when Roman was able to score a victory over Brock, it wasn't very convincing. Where Brock's victories were kind of convincing over Roman. So Brock coming back would set up a great match with Roman, but I think Roman absolutely has to beat him. But I can't see Brock coming back, winning the Rumble, and then just losing another match. He lost last year, got Claymore beat pretty decisively by Drew McIntyre. So doing Roman and Brock at this year's WrestleMania might be a little bit too quick. Maybe you have to save it for SummerSlam. Roman and Brock for SummerSlam. I laid out the scenario with Roman and Bobby Lashley for SummerSlam earlier on, but I know better than that. WWE doesn't listen to me. So maybe Roman and Brock could be better served for SummerSlam, and maybe, just maybe, Brock comes back into the fold and has some match like he did back in 2016 against Dean Ambrose that wasn't a title match. It was just on the card, which, if that's the case, you guys are welcome to throw out recommendations for who he could face if it's not in a title match. But I think when Brock does come back, maybe he should win a little bit first before he collides with the person that's going to beat him, which means it might be a little too quick to do the Roman thing, but damn, would it be interesting if he wins that Rumble and then it's like, holy shit, who's Brock going to face? If it's Roman, that's going to be a big conflict of interest, you would think, for Paul Heyman, and create all sorts of problems. And, like I said, that's Fox. Could be a good way to get Brock over there too. Now he can jump back over to Fox. He seems like he goes wherever he wants. But I don't know. But in the end, I think I'm picking Edge. So just to recap, I am predicting Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax to defeat Charlotte and Asuka for the women's tag team titles. I'm predicting Sasha Banks to retain over Carmella. I'm predicting Roman Reigns to retain over Kevin Owens. I'm predicting Drew McIntyre to retain over Goldberg out of principle. I absolutely refuse to predict that motherfucker to win the title, but I do admit it's a possibility, but I'm picking Drew. For the Women's Rumble, we talked a lot about it, all my different possibilities, all of our favorites, all of our surprise entrants, all of our WrestleMania scenarios, and in the end, I'm picking Rhea Ripley. I'm picking somebody that's not even announced for the Rumble. So how embarrassing would that be tomorrow as we're watching this Royal Rumble together if Rhea Ripley isn't even in the Rumble? I predicted somebody that wasn't in the match and didn't even appear in the match. That would be embarrassing, but you know what? I'm doing it anyway. And for the Men's Rumble, Edge. I was all on board to do Brock, but Monday night changed me. It was good to see Edge back, good to see his face, good to hear his voice, and just talking about his journey back to the top, his mother, things like that. Would be pretty cool to see him win, and it would give you one current strong talent with a huge future ahead of him in Rhea Ripley winning one Rumble, and then a returning veteran winning the other Rumble. It'll be a balance instead of having like it can't be like Trish and Edge winning. That would suck, old school people be again with WWE relying on their past stars instead of using and relying on the ones they currently have. So I think there's got to be a balance there of one current star. And if you are going to do an outsider or a part-timer coming in to win, I think it needs to be one match, not both. So there you go in a nutshell. Let's, you might have to change it to Spearmania if it turns out to be Roman and Edge and Goldberg all involved in title matches, which could be possible. Is there anybody else in wrestling that has a spear as their finish that we could throw into that? What's Rhino up to these days? And we didn't mention, there's a couple other people I didn't mention. I'm sorry. Seth Rollins. We're going to see him in the Rumble. I fully believe that he'll be an entrant in the Rumble, but probably get eliminated. So I did not mention Seth Rollins, and I should have. And also, I just saw it on the page here. Who was that I was supposed to mention? No, I forgot. One more person besides Seth Rollins. Now I forgot who it was going to be. Could be The Undertaker. Thanks for the $1.99 DA30. Did you hear what Roman said about The Undertaker? No, I didn't. I hope he shit on him. And that's the thing. I know Undertaker retired, but it's WrestleMania time. It's Peacock time. There's money to be made. I wouldn't be surprised if Vince little tap, tap, tap on the phone to Taker. But God, no, please. Could you imagine if The Undertaker won the Royal Rumble? No, God, don't even say that out loud. Zane G, appreciate the $10. Get Reigns, have a Lesnar-like mentality and defeat Edge at SummerSlam like Lesnar did Cena. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh man, that would be quite the annihilation. I don't want to see a murder, because that's what Brock did to Cena during that match. But yeah, I mean, I kind of am in agreement with that I think that you should give us a realistic storyline, a realistic scenario, and not everything is a fairy tale. And to have Edge win the Rumble and go in there and get beat would make a lot of sense. He's overmatched. He's older. He's got a bad neck. He's somewhat fragile. Roman is in the peak prime condition of his life. It wouldn't be that big of a stretch to think that Roman would fucking kill him in the match. And that's why I think, realistic sometimes can be better. Not always. Sometimes the story is better, but and I'm a big Edge fan. I'm saying this and laying out this scenario not as somebody that's a big Edge mark. I've loved Edge, but sometimes you got to go with what makes the most sense. And even though I'd love to see Edge win the title again, and I still think he will, maybe WrestleMania ain't the stage for that. Maybe Backlash is. Maybe SummerSlam is. Maybe No Mercy is. Or wait until they can get fans back and go to Canada and win it. I don't know. It's been 14 years since The Undertaker won the Royal Rumble match. I kind of forgot he did win. What was that? I don't even know what year that was. Divine Ricks, appreciate the $5. Greg, who do you think had the better match against Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, or Shawn Michaels? That's tough. Their Royal Rumble 2003 match, Angle and Benoit, one of my favorites of all time, and the Shawn Kurt match at WrestleMania 21. Can I be a complete bitch and say a tie? Okay, I'm not going to say a tie. I'm going to go Angle Benoit. I love that 03 match. Those guys are tough as nails. The Shawn Michaels match was fun and flashy and everything, but when it comes down to just two gritty, tough bastards, Shawn Michaels does not resemble that remark. Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit, however, definitely do. Oh, 2007. Oh, yeah, Taker and Batista. Thank you. Sorry, Adrian. I didn't know if did I miss you up there? I'm scrolling. Shit. If I missed 2 of your super chats, or no, I think you're just I'm sorry, Adrian. I see what you're saying now. I was thinking I missed them, but I did not. I get it. Whoa, look at that. Morrison will win the Rumble with help from Miz, and Miz cashes in. Morrison versus Miz for the title at WrestleMania. Can you imagine? Well, I can imagine it now, and I'm going to find the block button and get you out of here. I'm just kidding. But yeah, I mean, we didn't spend that ton of time talking about the Miz. We just talked about him a little bit in the Drew McIntyre and Goldberg match that, Miz could be used to protect these guys if you do want to do a finish where neither one of them has to get pinned. At least we have that possibility. But I'm still very, very nervous that WWE is going to ruin their champion, Drew McIntyre, by having that bastard beat him. And that makes me nervous as hell. But the Miz could be used. And that's why I have to try to organize in my mind and try to figure out if I'd be okay with that. Let's just say that happens. Goldberg wins the title, but he does it pinning the Miz. I will be a little bit less freaked out. I still won't like it, but I won't be stark raving mad like I was when Goldberg put down the Fiend and all of that. Like Goldberg, Drew, they put too much time into him. He's a badass. It's time for him to continue to roll. So Goldberg just putting him down and pinning him now, to me, would just be suicidal for WWE. I don't like to toss around the word burial that often, and nobody's buried. Drew, it's not like Drew would leave and never be seen again. He'd be on TV. Hell, he might even win the title again down the road. But losing here to Goldberg would do absolutely nothing for him in terms of his status as a big-time player, and WWE should trust the talent that they have to run with the ball so they don't have to continue to rely on 55-year-old people, and to have guys like Strowman and McIntyre and Roman hopefully all get victories over Goldberg. I would much rather see that than Goldberg get victories over them. And I'm always fine with the legends coming in. I'm fine with part-timers. I'm fine with seeing the old faces again, provided they are used properly, provided they actually have something to offer. And a lot of times they don't. They're just brought in. I mean, WWE probably was just like, oh shit, WrestleMania is coming up. We need some people. They called up Goldberg to work a Royal Rumble match when, Drew could have worked with anybody. But I think, with all the stuff they were setting up with Sheamus and Keith Lee on Raw, it looked like that was going to be your title scenario, and WWE just felt like that wasn't big enough. And, you could have done Drew McIntyre and Sheamus for the title at the Rumble, but instead it's going to be Goldberg, and that's that. But The Miz, definitely could be the ticket to getting through that match without anybody getting too buried in the process. Shawn Michaels, yeah. I mean, Crush, you're right about that, because Shawn, he already got back in the ring in Saudi Arabia. You can't undo that. So once you've been in the ring again, I'd be cool with Shawn showing up. Bald-headed Shawn. God, he looks terrible with that bald head, doesn't he? Oh, thanks. I didn't see Isaiah B. I can only scroll up, so let me go to the other side. Maybe I'll see it. There we go. Got that one. I got Zayn. I'm scrolling. How far up is this thing? Damn, I don't see it. It's because I can only go up so far. I don't see Isaiah's B. What did Isaiah B say? Let's answer a super chat. We don't want to leave him out. Leave him hanging. Yeah, Jordan, you're right about that. Another thing you got to remember about the Drew McIntyre and Goldberg match is Goldberg has never won the WWE title. He's only been Universal and Big Gold Belt Championship holder in WWE. Maybe they want his name in the record books. I think that would be silly just to have him win. Damn it. He could win his first WWE title in his 50s. How fucked up would that be? God. No, I don't want to see that. We got Bakir. In your opinion, Bill Goldberg will defeat Drew McIntyre in the Royal Rumble and chase Roman Reigns for WrestleMania 37 match. I've seen that scenario tossed around a couple of times. We're not doing the unification. No, I don't see that happening. I don't see a champion versus champion match at WrestleMania. We saw it at Survivor Series. I still think we're going to get McIntyre and Reigns again. And that's another thing you have to take in consideration here as well. And if you wanted to do that match, you could have Goldberg win the title by pinning The Miz and then have McIntyre. I'd be cool with that. When it comes down to like the scenarios of somebody else like a Goldberg or Roman entering themselves into a match, into the Rumble match after they've lost or something, McIntyre could be a good way to do it. You know, because especially if Goldberg winds up pinning The Miz and The Miz fucks everything up, McIntyre goes into the Royal Rumble, wins it, hops to SmackDown, and we'll get the rematch. We'll get the Survivor Series rematch between McIntyre and Roman Reigns. That could work as well. But I also think when we do get that rematch again, McIntyre versus Reigns, McIntyre wins. So they could do that, I suppose, at WrestleMania. But like I said, I kind of think Roman should be considered to hold the belt beyond WrestleMania. I don't think there's any guarantees he drops it there. I think SummerSlam might be my target date for him. Hey, and hear me out here. Here's an idea. Roman holds the belt longer than Bruno. Imagine that. Imagine that. Would that work today? Probably not. But holy shit. 8 years as champ. Think people will be a little annoyed with him by the time he finally drops the belt in 8 years? After 2 more presidents and 2 more Olympics? Jesus, that's a long time away. Good to see you back, Corporal Alphadorf. Thanks for the $5. Certified freak 7 days a week. Big Papa Pump in the Rumble this week. If you hear me. Oh, man, Big Papa Pump. Is he still pumping? I don't think he'll be in the Rumble. I don't think so. I'd like to see some random-ass people in there, but he's a stretch. I'd say there's a negative 33 and a 3% chance he'll be in it. Yeah, could see The Rock in there too. Rock is possible, but I think they might be trying to save The Rock, provided he can still go for 39 here in LA. WrestleMania, maybe him and Roman then. I'm not sure, but that's a lot of scenarios that we laid out here, the boys and girls, for the Royal Rumble. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here now because I know WWE Backstage has started, and some of you might be really, really interested in Tamina and Natty. Has that match started yet? If anybody wants to give us an update in the chat, please feel free to do so. But apparently that'll determine the 30th entrance for the women's match, and they're going to announce the number 1 and 2 entrants for the men's match as well. And I believe we've got Renee, Booker, and Paige on that on FS1 right now, so I'll be checking that out later, and we'll find out the final entrance for this Rumble, or the final show before. Batista, I don't think Batista will be there. I think he's legit retired. Yeah, John Cena versus Goldberg. Oh, God. Goldberg could win the title from Drew, and then Cena wins the Rumble, challenges Goldberg, and then we got Goldberg and Cena wins the 17th title. But again, I think at some point, Cena has got to win that Universal. I think that's the one he needs to win. WWE definitely wants him to win that before he fully retires. Now, Mil Mascaras, Yob, he will not be in the Royal Rumble. He was in 97, though. Dumbass eliminated himself. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that. Reigns could be number 30. Now, that would be actually kind of funny, because wasn't Brock in the Rumble last year's champion? What if Reigns wanted to do something like that? He came out as number 30 and he won the Royal Rumble as champion. We've never seen that. He could drop the belt to Kevin Owens, though, and come out as number 30. But what if he won and still came out and won the Rumble? I'm going to face myself at WrestleMania. I'm going to vote no on CM Punk. Not feeling it. I know everybody says, oh, it'll be so much better with fans, and that's true for every scenario, but I think there's some scenarios that WWE just concedes that they're not going to be able to do it in front of fans because of the situation we're in. But Punk is a situation where I would wait. I would wait for a crowd pop for him because it would be a waste. Like that, you can't, I mean, if he's ever going to come back, probably not. But if he does, that would absolutely be necessary to have fans there just to hear, just to see if it outdoes Edge's pop or AJ Styles' pop or something like that when they came back. Oh, his question was about CM Punk. Yeah, he's definitely in the, you could put him in the list. I don't see it. I don't see him coming back probably ever, but not in this Royal Rumble. Like I said, I think it would be a waste without fans, but I'd be cool with it. Yeah, and The Miz, I cannot see him coming out of the Royal Rumble with championship gold. With all this star power on the show, you got Roman, and you got Edge, and Daniel Bryan, and Goldberg, and Drew McIntyre, and potentially Brock Lesnar, and The Fiend, and Randy Orton, and Strowman. If Miz walks out of this mess as the champion, that is just going to be absolutely insane. Start time for the Royal Rumble for me is 4 p.m. on the West Coast, 7 p.m. on the East Coast. That's the main card, I believe. Kickoff will be an hour before that. And, yeah, we'll be up here for the main card tomorrow. So make sure you join us. All right. Yeah, let's get out of here so you guys can watch WWE Backstage and enjoy the rest of your Saturday evening. Don't forget to join us as soon as the main card for the Royal Rumble starts tomorrow. We'll be doing a live watch-along for the whole thing. And I'll have a link posted later on tonight so you can save it. And hopefully you can hang out and drink some beer and have some snacks with us tomorrow. And we will watch what I hope is going to be 4 hours of really awesome, good wrestling. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with us today. Take care and enjoy the Royal Rumble tomorrow. Hope you can enjoy it with me. Y'all be good.